This week's episode is sponsored by Change. Change is the #1 mentoring programme that teaches you e-commerce from scratch. Change has a real community with real results. I have been working with Ryan for many years now and have attended many of his events and retreats across the world and got to meet members and the amazing community of like-minded people. Ryan works with a lot of big names in the business world, helping them build online businesses and e-commerce. Change offers personal one-on-one support, no experience needed, but like anything, this takes time and is not a get-rich-quick scheme. If you put the work in, you will get the results. E-commerce and online shopping is getting bigger and bigger. This is a great opportunity for anyone that is looking for financial freedom. For more information, go follow Ryan on Instagram at RyanJB, and he will guide you through the steps to help you get started and build a successful online business. You can now follow me on all my social media platforms to find out who my latest guest will be. And don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you're notified for when my next podcast goes live. And boom, we're on. And today's guest, we've got Melvyn Downs. Melvyn, how are we?
I'm good, mate. Thanks for having us, James.
Thanks for coming on the show. We've been speaking for a while.
Yeah.
You've released your book, Unbreakable, which we'll plug straight away. You were in the military for over 20 years, SAS for over 12 years. A mad career. Thank you for your service, first of all. The trailblazing SAS soldier who never backed down. Where can people buy your book?
Well, it's on Amazon. It's on all the platforms. It's on Audible. You can order it from Amazon, and it's in Waterstone's. It's in Waterstone's book shop, and it's also in the airports and that.
Yeah, legendary.
Yeah, just order it.
Yeah, get it ordered. But people will be more in depth of your story today when we'll go through all the nitty gritty. But all the SAS men have got nothing but respect for it. It's the hardest training I believe in the world. And it's whether I'm biased or not, I'm not asked, but you can tell by the respect that they get from all around the world, the SAS. The British Army in a whole, which we'll touch on, it was a force. I don't know if it is as much now because the numbers are dwindling down, but how are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. But it's true what you say, the numbers are going down, but you still get the same kids on there. And that's why I say kids, because 90% of people in the British Army are just from council estates. And that was exactly the same in the SAS. 90% of the kids, people who join the SAS, are just from council estate, the council estate kids. And that's why I hate it when people knock people down just because they come from a rough council housing estate. And yet they love the SAS. They don't realise that was the rough kid. That's what's made them resilient. And that's what makes them get in the SAS. And no other country can actually mirror our exact course. And when people say, why can't they mirror it and do it exactly the same? I say, because they haven't got that British mentality of growing up on an hard estate where you're learning as a kid, and you've got that fire in your belly to do well.
Do you think that's what it comes down to? Being on the streets in the UK, because there's tough streets all around the world, but the UK does have a crazy mentality. A lot of people, you'll tend to see, like interviewed Chris Ryan, he says that the majority of the boys are fucked up because they come from, everybody joins the military for different reasons. Probably get away from abusive households, skint, want to travel the world, some people want to go to kill. But there's different things that people join for. But he says there's something ingrained, being born in Britain, there's something ingrained in the mentality of the men here. There's something stronger than most in the world.
You've just hit on the point then, because I've only just thought about that. When you're saying a lot of lads have been through trauma, I was just trying to think of all the lads I know, and most of them have. Not just come from an odd background, but they've had things have gone on in their life. You know what I mean? So maybe that's it. Like mine was bullying, other people have actually been sexually abused and so on, and they've only let this stuff out later on. And I do believe what you go through, life, it just makes you more resilient. You grow through what you go through.
Yeah, it molds you.
it molds you into the person that you are
does.
today. And that's what Chris was saying. He just says a lot of the kids they're escaping to escape, you know, like because of what they go through in the home, because of what they go through with the parents, or bullied, no money, shitty relationships, just no hope. And it is a good place to go, to learn discipline. But we know the figures now with mental health and suicide with the military boys. But then again, everybody's suicidal at the moment. Everybody's struggling with mental health. It's such a topic that everybody speaks about, but yet everybody's more suicidal than ever. So who knows, maybe we can speak too much about it as well but then again, speaking about it is also a good feeling to release it and to face it. But we're living in a very mad generation now where things are changing fast. But before we get into all the madness, brother, I always like to go back to the start with my guests, get more a bit of understanding about you, where you grew up and how it all began.
Okay, well, I grew up in Stoke-on-Trent. And I'll tell you the background story was my dad, he came across in the original Wimbledon era from Jamaica. He came across in 1952, an 18-year-old. And, he was black as the ace of spades, to tell you the truth. Really black, proud Jamaican accent. But he loved the motherland. You know, he had the picture of the Queen and up, and he come across this country to rebuild the country after the Second World War. And that's what they were invited across. Anyway, he came across and then met my mum. And she's originally from Stoke. She was only 17 as well. And they got together, but my mum's white. And in Stoke-on-Trent at that time, the area where I grew up, I can count on one hand the amount of ethnic people. That's called black, mixed race, and a couple of Asians. That was it. But this estate where we grew up, it was the largest council housing estate in Europe at the time when it was built in the 50s. And I was born in 1964. So we moved to this massive council housing estate. But what it was mainly miners and pottery workers. But as I said, and I actually Googled this after, there was over 11,000 people on that estate. And I knew 5 people like myself, you know, of an ethnic background. So because of this, when we moved to that area, we just got an awful lot of abuse. And I can remember it growing up from the first day at school and it went on. For instance, we got our house broken in, and I remember coming home because it was we went around to my auntie's, and it was on Christmas Eve, and we came back, and they smashed up all the house and wrote on NF and niggas go home and the Phantom Turkey Shaggers have done this and just ruined everything. And more I still remember from that, my dad then, he slept downstairs. He was a minor at this stage, so on shifts or whatever, but he sometimes as he was going to school, I'd still see him downstairs depending on what shift he was on. And he slept with a massive kitchen knife. He was hoping that somebody'd do it again. And no doubt he would have killed him. So it was a really tough time growing up back then. But this is the 60s, 70s and 80s, you know. It was the time when the National Front were marching about and everything. And it was all the different shows were on, you know. It was like, for instance, my first day at school, I remember they give you this little locker I laugh about now. And your very first locker, so I'm like 4 or 5 years old, and on the lockers, so you can remember where you put all your gym kit and your boots and that, and they had like a train, they had a plane, they had like teddy bears, they had dollies, and the girls were getting the dollies and all that sort of stuff, and I'm looking, and they had the soldier, because I always wanted to be a soldier. And there he was in a red outfit and a bare skin hat, you know, black. I'm like, God, I want that soldier. They give it to another boy. And the teacher goes to me, he's yours, Melvyn. And it was a gollywog. And she just smiled and laughed. And I remember there was together thinking, and just laughing at it, you know, and it didn't bother me, but it was, at the time, then I got the name as a golly and so on. It's all that era, total different era. But at the end of it, James, what you go through makes you grow through, and it made me more resilient because I had to start fighting at a young age. I didn't want to fight, but I had to look after myself. I had no way of doing anything otherwise I would have just been squashed. So I was bullied, but then I had to stand up to the bullies.
Yeah, in the 60s, the National Front, I think they were formed, 60s, 70s, but
it was all that era.
I don't see racism, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Yeah. Especially now, we've got so much divide People can't even put a flag up without even being called racist now, which is fucking, if I'm honest, it's totally madness to me. No matter if you're Scotland, England, Ireland, Northern Ireland, Wales, Colombia, Jamaica, America, you should be proud of your heritage. You should be proud of your country. You should be proud of your flag.
Yeah.
I've got so much divide where people now are just hating on everyone and using race and using left and right. I don't give a fuck who you are. I treat people the way they treat me. But when you were growing up in that tough era, when racism wasn't behind the doors, it was in your face. It's different now because I like I says, I don't see racism, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It fucking right, it does exist. It's probably could be worse now than it was maybe back then because people are hiding behind their hate. People are hiding behind their rage, you know. But how was that for a young kid going through that, not really oblivious to it all, to then, did you understand why people were hating on you for skin colour?
I didn't. I remember walking to school. Sometimes my dad would take me, and then people would be literally leaning out of the bus, going past and spitting at him and calling him the M word. And then I just state that word from, you know, I just do. And then I remember saying to my dad, why are they doing this, Dad? And he just, oh, my dad goes, take the notice, you take the notice. But the worst was with my mum, because she was white. She was getting the N lover, calling it, you know, nig lover and all that. And as I said, I was just a young kid and I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even really understand I was black. I remember all the kids on the playground. There was some black guy walking past our school and all the little kids and infants, you know, you're 5 years old. They all start running and calling him Black Sambo and all that. It's just like kids, they aren't racist, you know, nobody's born racist. And I'm shouting the same. And it's my friend goes, oh, you're a Black Sambo too. And he goes, Luke, and he started trying to rub my skin. And then that's when I sort of realised that you're different. And also then I was getting bullied, you know, by kids a bit older. And this went on for about a year. And they used to just chase me home and sometimes not give me a good kicking, but mess you about, you know, just chuck you on the floor. And because I had a big afro then, you know, play with your hair and just make monkey noises. It was just horrible. And I used to, at school, just think, which way do I get out of this school? Do I go out the front gates, rear gates? Do I run over the playground and get over these 6-foot railings? And then I'd just bomb-burst home. I've got about, you know, just under a mile home, something like that. And I'd just be sprinting home, hoping the kids don't get us. And to this day, I was that scared. Then people say, what's the most fear you've had? That was the only time, that's the most fear I've ever had. And I've been on lots of missions and done lots of proper stuff and, it's, you know, obviously really scary stuff. But there's nothing as scary as going back to that day because you as a kid, you don't realise what's going on. And I used to shit myself out to the point where I was running around and banging on people's doors and shouting help and that, you know, as I was getting chased. And they weren't going to kill me, but in my mind, it felt like they were. But it was the one day when I was running home, my dad, he was off work because, as I said, he was a miner, and he saw these kids and he told me go and fight them. I'm like, you what? And then that's when he made me fight. He just said, leave a mark, and no matter what, bite them. And I always remember he said that. And so I started fighting them. They started pushing me around. Then I actually bit one and he squealed like a pig. And then afterwards, you know, they got the better of me and my dad come walking across and he just says, like, you can never back down because if you back down now, you'll always be backing down. So that's why I always stood up for myself. And before you know it, you got a reputation of being the best fighter in your class and then in your school. And then on our estate, there was lots of high schools, you know, it's, as I said, massive estate. So you're fighting the best fighter in the other school and so on. So I just got drawn into having these fights all the time because I didn't back down. I didn't want to fight, but I would always stand up to myself. Don't get me wrong, I got some good beatings in my time, but that just made me more resilient. So yeah, that's the message I give to people. Not fight, but just always stand up for yourself. And my dad, he had great principles. He just says there's good and bad in every nationality, every race, every religion. If people don't like you for your colour, they won't like you because you've got a big nose or your football team you support and everything. You've always going to have that small minority of haters. And these are the type of people who hate themselves. They're jealous of what other people are doing, you know what I mean? And they just want to get in that sort of gang. And as I said, it's more underneath now because people are doing it more like online and so on. But there's still racism there, but it's nothing like how it was when it was just blatant in your face. So, you know, that's just part of life.
Is that why your dad didn't move? Because he didn't want to
Yeah.
like show defeat or hide instead of to just face it head on, and took out all the abuse, took the bullying, took the hatred, took the smashing up the house. Like, was that one of the reasons why he didn't decide to leave?
Well, I never asked really, but he would stick there. No, I do believe it is most probably that, but you know, he's not one for running away as well, and he always told me that. Plus, I suppose they had nowhere else to go, because before this, they were in bed sits. They had nothing, because the mom's mother kicked her out because she was going out with a black guy. So before that, I can even remember the bed sits. So I was only about 3.5. Mom at the time couldn't believe how I could remember and recall. But it was a massive house, and there was people with turbans. There was a lot of Irish, the only white people there, but Irish people, and everybody sort of mucked in. And then when we moved to this estate, it was just totally different. It was just like, just all white, and a couple of, as I say, people from different backgrounds. But a lot of it was just because there was something different, you know what I mean? So it's not...
It's mad though, that how the world acts through someone's skin colour, through the hatred. But like you say, nobody's born racist. It's learnt behaviours from parents. It's learnt behaviours by their surroundings as well, you know? When did it change for you then? When did it start improving? Did it ever improve?
Yeah. Well, after us living on that estate for a few years, before you know it, my dad, he got so much respect because he would always go out suited and booted. And
Respectable.
Yeah. Always Jamaicans used to go out with a suit and tie, a little tie, and no matter what, he'd finish work as a miner, have a shower, and he'd be straight out. Where you'd see other people who were miners, they were going out and must have had a quick shower, but they still got a suit around the eyes, you know, they just wanted to go out and get a beer, and they didn't smart themselves up. So my dad, he was always immaculately dressed whenever he went out just for a pint or whatever, you know, if he's going club. And also he looked after himself, because I remember as a kid, I was sitting outside a pub where he was. I was having some pop and crisps, and then somebody was having a go at a woman, and my dad went across, just tried to break up the argument, and then this guy then started calling him names, and then he just went into him like a Tasmanian devil, and then he come across to me as if nothing was wrong. Right, let's go home now. And it really scared me watching your dad fight, because before, just going to the school and that, obviously he just kept quiet. But what he won't stand for is somebody bullying somebody else. So this guy was having a go, and he just stood up there. And then I started hearing as I was getting older about, you know, how my dad, he took on basically lots of people on that estate and beat him. And he's only a small guy, but boy, did he have you know, he had like his fist was so hard, and his skin was like rhino skin, you know. It was like that, and he just always stood up for himself. But what I did notice, whenever he was in a pub, and he'd go anywhere, he'd go to any pub and that, he'd always stand with his back to the wall and that. Even if he knew the pub and knew everyone in there, he'd always stand to with his back to the wall. But he got such a good reputation from the estate. All the pubs around the area knew him. And I remember when I could start drinking, going to this pub, one of the pubs, and having a drink. This was like, I was on leave from the army. And these blokes, and I was only about, 18, these blokes who were men, it must have been in the 40s, they come up to me. And I'm sure they're going to have a go at me and my mate. And they're like, you're standing in my spot. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll move out the way. Then they started questioning, am I such and such a person? I'm from such and such a family. And then, where you from? I goes, I'm from here. And I must mean, I was shitting myself. There's a few of them. And then I goes, I'm here. And he goes, what's your name? And I said, Melvyn Downs. And he goes, Downs? Sammy Downs? I goes, that's my dad. Oh, how is he? And then they were all over me, you know what I mean? Because everybody knew my dad on that estate. So we got a good reputation. We got on with people. And yeah, and I ended up, and you know, there's still obviously some bad elements, because this estate is still always renowned for the roughest estate in Stoke. So, but you got a lot of nice people, because once you could buy your council housing, I say, your council house, a lot of people bought it and looked after the houses. But then next door you could get a druggie and somebody else moving in, you know. So there's always a lot of crime on there. However, majority of people are just hard-working people. And that's the way my dad always told me, like, lead your life. Just be an hard-working person, respectful person, and take people as you find them.
What was the decision to join the army? Because you joined very young, just 16.
For some reason, as far as, you know, my mum used to say, she used to push us around in the market, and there'd be little soldiers, and I'd always want one as a kid, a really young kid. And then I always remember when Trooping the Colours on TV, a little black and white TV, my dad used to make me stand up and, you know, salute and all this sort of stuff, because he's a patriot. He was Jamaican. He loved the Queen and everything. And so
why was that? Why was it obviously but then coming? But Britain they were involved with Jamaica. No, did they colonise Jamaica?
Yeah, they did, didn't they? I'm not too sure.
90% of the world, but just for your dad being a proud Jamaican to then being a proud British? Because I know you had. Did you have a flag or something hanging from your house?
Yeah, well, not growing up, but I have a flag now because I'm a proud Englishman, and I'm a proud British person. You know, I'm British. That's my country. Yeah, I'm proud of my dad's heritage, but I like some Jamaican food and everything. But to me, the culture is the British culture. So I think anybody who comes to our country, doesn't matter what country you might their families come from or whatever, they want to adapt and get into the British culture, because let's face it, I think immigration should be integration. And that doesn't mean you lose all aspects of your country, but if you were in a country, you should be willing to fight for that country and defend that country and defend that flag. That's our flag. I used to really hate it when I go home and see groups like the National Front walking around with the Union Jack and stuff like that. I'm like, fucking hell, that's my flag. I'm defending what I have to salute most days in the camp. It's the last. It's the first thing I see and last thing you see when you're going out on a mission. You know, that's your flag. We've driving around with them in the desert on the back of our vehicles. So that's my flag. So I hate when it's being used as an extreme right. You know, that no black people can. There's no black in the Union Jack and how it used to be. Fuck that. That flag is flying high in my garden, and it always will be. And I think everybody should have the flag flying, you know, like America. I can't stand this, like, how people are saying, oh no, the flag. You've got the far left saying the flag represents colonialism and empire building and racism. I'm like, get a grip of yourself. I feel like shaking the heads and give your heads a wobble, you know what I mean? Going back hundreds of years, it was a different atmosphere. It was totally different. You don't get an empire by knocking on somebody's door and saying, give me a piece of land. That's what we were. It was a British Empire. We should have been proud of the past. Yeah, we did bad things. Every empire did. Every country has done. But we're the best country in the world by far. And that's why I love the country. So I don't like how the far left, extreme, I call it extreme far left, is saying, oh, this flag represents racism and colonialism. And then I hate it how the extreme far right saying it's only fair. You've got to be an Anglo-Saxon heritage and all the rest of it. It's bollocks. If you live in this country, you should be wanting to defend that country. So the flag all of us should have is the Union Jack. And then you have a country's flag. You know, I like having the St. George's Cross. No doubt you like having the flag of, St. Andrews.
What's your flag, Steph? St. Andrews flag.
And the Welsh like having the dragon and so on. So, you know.
Yeah, you've got to, like, people are signing up, users signing up to kill and die for your flag, basically, you know, like people are willing to put their life at the front. Now, people can do their protests and marches, but I genuinely hate the divide. Like, I don't care where you are, what colour you are, what religion you are, what fucking gender you are. Like, whatever country you got to, you've got to follow their rules, you've got to follow their regulations, you know, and I'm all for refugees, I'm all for legal immigration, I'm all for that because the world is an amazing place. People are amazing, we just don't see it. Social media is turning everyone against each other. Illegal immigration is a different story. Like, no matter where you are in the world, and I think people who call you racist about illegal immigration has nothing to do with race. No. You've got Scottish, Irish, Russian, Polish who'll come to the UK, or they'll go to America. Scottish and Irish all flooded New York, but the majority of them worked hard. Like, if you're willing to come here and work hard or anywhere in the world, if you're willing to provide and raise your family and do well and just be good, by all means, be where you want to be. But when you've got illegal immigrants maybe getting put next to schools, and young kids are getting abused. And not every illegal immigrant is bad. We've got to get that clear, but you still got to have some paperwork so we can understand of what's going on, the crimes that are here. Like we've got enough dick kids from here that live here that need sorting first because they've got enough problems, So I just think, look, everybody wants to jump on sides in the bandwagon. I just think it's a little common sense. Just have some sort of paperwork and then going out and work. There's plenty of opportunities to have a great life. Your dad, prime example, he took all this shit but still stood his ground to then having the respect and then raising like a warrior like yourself for what you've done and achieved. You should be proud, which we'll get into. So 16, you then decide to take the leap away from your mum, your dad. Was that a decision? What was the main decision? Because like we spoke at the start, people join for different reasons. Were you just kind of wanting a new life to get away from the life that you were in? Did you want the fitness? Did you want to kill people? Like, what was the mindset?
No. I know some people say they go in the army to kill people. Fucking hell, yeah. I've never known anyone want to do that. And especially in the SAS, how people say you go in the SAS. Some people go in the SAS to kill people. That's a load of bollocks. For one, if you want to go killing people, you should be in a psychiatric hospital. Yeah. There's something fucking wrong with you. It's deranged. You go in the SAS because it's the top of your game. It's the top of the tree, and that's why you go in the SAS. And I always wanted to go in the military because basically, to me, it was hands-on. It made sense. I didn't do well at school because to me, I couldn't understand stuff like geology and science, and I wasn't interested. But doing military stuff, because I joined the Army Cadets at 11 years old, and that made sense to me, doing stuff like navigation, first aid, firing rifles, camping out, survival. I loved all that sort of stuff. Whereas doing all these, learning about science, chemistry, and that, it just didn't make sense to me. I wasn't interested. So as soon as I could go in the army, I did. So at 16 years old, I found myself in the army. My dad gave me just a few pounds, and I found myself with this itchy blanket making bed blocks in a room full of blokes, and from what I've never seen or different accents before. There were Scottish people there because I was an infantry junior leaders battalion, so it was from all around. It's where the infantry go, and if you're going to be, they reckon you've got a bit of leadership. So it's from every infantry regiment, Scottish regiments, Welsh regiments, people from down south and everything. So just listening to all different accents. I hadn't hardly heard anybody from Scotland before, or Wales and that. It was great, and I loved everything about it. And I really thrived there. I ended up getting a junior sergeant major, because you get a rank structure there, and you do a year's training. Unlike if you joined at 18, you do something like 18 weeks training or something like that. For a boy soldier, you do a full year's training. So by the time I finished that, I was quite a decent soldier. Then I went to my parent unit, and I just always wanted soldier. And I enjoyed being a soldier, and I went up the ranks quite quickly.
How were you treated at 16, young kid? Because we know it can be quite ruthless as well, but you'd obviously been through it in the streets with the sort of bullying and the name calling. Yeah. How was it in the military? Were you accepted?
Yeah, there was accepted in the military. There was always a bit of bullying going on, a bit of name calling, but it was nothing like going out and back in Civvy Street up in Stoke, for instance. You were a little band of brothers. I felt more safe in the army barracks and going out with my military friends than what I did going back to Stoke. And this went on as I was progressing through my career.
Do you get confidence from that when like you say, when you're in the barracks, it's like a world within a world. It's like a bubble you're in where you feel protected because you have got the band of brothers to protect you, who are willing to stick up for you, who are not letting you being bullied. And when you're being a kid and chased and you're banging doors alone, frightened, to then people saying, no, I'm with him, don't fuck around.
Yeah, because you've got that ethos within an infantry unit. When you get to your main unit, this is, that's you want your section, which is a section of 8 of you, be the best section, and your platoon, which is so many sections in the platoon, you want your platoon be the best, and so many platoons in a company, and then so many companies make a battalion. And I was in the Staffordshire Regiment, and was also proud of our regiment, and that was mirrored through all the different regiments. You could have been in the Scottish Regiment or Scots Guards or something like that, and it'll be exactly the same. The guys are proud of their regiment and proud of their unit, and they stick together. So when you could be going out downtown, especially in the garrison area, there might be guys from other units or different regiments, and you would stick together for your regiment and you'd have your sitting pubs and they'd have theirs. And again, it's against fighting with civvies, and this always happens. I'll give you a prime example. I'm for this for donkeys. I remember going out to this place where we were banned. It was called the Tartan House when we was in Colchester, and it was me and my mate, and he was a white guy, and this guy actually lived just across the street from me, named Proc. That's it. And we went to this nightclub, and I remember going over to try and chat up these girls, and there was just 2 girls, and we went talking to them, and then I saw a guy giving me the finger, saying, like, come here, as if I knew him. And I walked over, and he just smashed a pint glass in my neck. And I was just starting, I thought, oh, he's chopped all ice on me. And what it was shards of glass. I'd been having a drink. And then he just disappeared in the crowd. I had all blood. And it just missed this still tiny scars you can see somewhere here on my neck. But it was so close to my main artery. And like, God, that could have killed me. Anyway, I got patched up in there. The manager actually just took me in the back and put a bandage on. And I had all blood, but I had a dark top on, so it just blended in. I came back into from the back, and carried on drinking. And me and my friend then, just as we was leaving, say at 2 o'clock in the morning, we all went outside, and no kidding you, there was a coach load of blokes, and they must have all come from a certain area. And this guy who already glassed me was on there, and he came running out, and all these guys come flooding out, and started on us. And I could have run back inside, but because I'm like that and don't back down. And we was on these steps, and these guys just attacked us, a lot of them. But then I was just fighting them. My friend was fighting them, and we were just standing back to back fighting these guys. Before you know it, they overran us. And boy, did we get a kicking. And all I remember was the bouncers opening the door and just pulling us back in. But my mate stood up for me, and he got worse kicking than me. For instance, the next day we was on parade, so this must have been on a Sunday night or whatever, but we had the parade, say on the Monday or the day after, maybe a Saturday. And then when we was on parade, my friend actually had a boot mark still on his face, like where he's been stamped on and everything. And we both had all cuts, and he had a big shiner and everything. And we didn't dare say where we'd been, but it just shows you how your friend, he'll stand with you no matter what. He'll take a good kicking for you. And it's the same in all the military,
But that's true of friends. You don't get that nowadays. You only get a handful of people who would be willing to take the punches for you, who would be willing to stand with you. Too many shite bags, too many pussies like to turn away and run.
Yeah, I found that because when you're in the military, people take a bullet for you, and you have to. And when you come back out in Civvy Street, it's a lot less trustworthy, and people say they'll do a lot, but they don't do it. I'm like, God, yes. And that's one, going back, what we was talking about, legal and illegal immigration, that's one thing I do 100% disagree with. There should be no veterans sleeping on the streets. You know what I mean? They shouldn't.
I agree.
Unbelievable. And I know we just whizzed past that subject, but I agree with you. And 90% of people, 99% of people agree that if you're a legal immigrant coming through the legal way, then fair enough. If you're an illegal immigrant, then without any papers, you've got to find out who they are, because and then getting put in an hotel where veterans are sleeping on the streets. I know it's not their fault, but it's breeding more animosity. And to me, I think the government want this because they like to keep people looking left and right. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They could stop that tomorrow. You, James, I could think of ideas how to stop it straight away. You know what I mean? Yeah. What I would do is just have a massive tented camp. Anybody who comes illegally, they stay in that tented camp until we can really find out where they're from and everything. And if we can't, then that's where they stay. And if they realise they come to a tented camp, I've lived out in nothing. Tented camps are great. You get the eaters in them and everything. Mm-hmm. But you don't go out, you're in that tented camp. And then when you do get processed, and then they do come to get a job and live and work, then a certain percentage of your money, what you're making on that job, say 20% or 10%, has to go back to pay for what it costs to keep you there, all the food and everything. You know what I mean? And if that gets carried on to your family until the next generation, until it's all paid for. And let's face it, you'd want to pay back, wouldn't you? And then that would stop a lot of it, I believe.
But it's just young fighting men that's coming over, you know. It's quite scary that it looks like an invasion, but the army could stop the boats in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But you've got to have, stopping the benefits would stop people crossing them, because a lot of these kids are coming by 10 different countries to come here. We're the kind of last protocol. But if you're getting a free hotel, free money, mobile phone, free food, and you're coming from a shitty place, then by all means, like, why wouldn't you? I can understand why they're doing it, but don't fucking harm our children. Like, leave the kids alone. Like, but when you see these things, like people protesting out in Epping, out in Essex, one of the guys abused a 14-year-old, get 12 months. Three of the protesters get 2 years each.
Yeah.
So the people protesting against the paedophiles are getting bigger sentences than the actual paedophiles. Like, what the fuck is going on? But they do say, create the problem, get the reaction, find the solution. Now, that's what they're talking about with digital ID. But I don't know. Social media does make you hate the UK sometimes. It becoming weaker and becoming softer. Keir Starmer as a wanker, like he genuinely is bad. And then you look at Sadiq Khan, who's now being investigated for the cover-up of the grooming gangs in London, where he says there was no such thing, but yet he looked at 10 different cases with his own eyes and says, and just kind of blanked it. So there is a lot of unrest, there is a lot of badness, but on the other hand, there is a lot of beauty and there is a lot of great people from all around the UK.
The thing is, 95% of it is fantastic. 95% of people are fantastic. But you always get that element, and I do believe the government and the politicians, I can't trust hardly any of them, they want this. They want it, because then if you're looking left and right and you've got the minions, the people who are just normal people getting on and working hard, they aren't looking up at the elites, and that's where there's a lot more problems going on, bigger problems in the country, but they just want to keep this infighting going, you know.
It's the people.
That's my theory anyway.
It's the people behind the curtain. It's the people. It's not your Donald Trumps. It's not your Keir Starmers. It's the people who's telling them what to do and what to say. They're perfect for the divide, and it's just divide and rule. They're taking over everything, and social media is playing a massive part because we're so glued to our phones. We're being gravitated towards what our phones are showing us. Our mind is absorbing it, and me and you could look at a different post. It's the same post, but we could be seeing different comments. So we could be gravitating and agreeing with something and disagreeing. So the world and social media, AI especially, is making everyone turn against each other, when really we should all concentrate in our lives. If you think the world's bad, become good yourself. You know, leave the legacy, leave the mark to become a better person, to do good. But we're so fucking... Everything's full of noise. Everything's...
And that's why now, you know, I was worried about stuff going back to the past, how it was. As I say, 95% of people, genuine good people, and you've got to live your life. You've got to enjoy life, because if you think about too much negativity or anger around with all negative people, you start dragging you down. You know, I do believe negativity breeds negativity. The same with positivity breeds positivity. I don't mean like I can't wake up every morning singing "Come By Your Armour, Lord" and everybody's beautiful in that, because they aren't. There's some bad gits out there, and I face them. However, you know, we've got to take the best of things, and just all this moaning what's going on, you just like, right, just think of it. It's done for a reason. You just be the best version of yourself, and you can't go wrong. And again, James, it's like when the politicians send the troops out to fight. They love you. They want you fight. The SAS, they love it. They love it going out there doing a mission, protecting the country, and then years later, they're trying to prosecute them straight away. You know what I mean? They're trying to look back and saying like what guys have allegedly did and stuff like that. And it's just trying, I mean, even back to Bloody Sunday, they're trying to prosecute people. It's disgusting. And the same politicians want you to go out there, do a job, but then they'd be the first trying to investigate you for doing your job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's Yeah, I'd already done 12 years. So I went to the SAS. I was already a sergeant.
So how did you get to that rank? Did you do any tours?
Yeah, I did 3 tours of duty in Northern Ireland. I also did the first Gulf War. So I was in the full-armed infantry.
Was that Iraq?
This is Iraq. This is 1991. So basically,
Was that Saddam Hussein?
yeah.
Did he not try to invade Kuwait?
Yeah, he did invade Kuwait, and it was a full-on war. But majority of the time, you're just waiting for this to happen. We was out living in the desert for 5 months. I mean, by the side of a vehicle.
Was that your first tour?
This was
Gulf War
with the Gulf. Yeah, that's
what you thinking then going there for your first tour when it's actually happening. Like, well, how old were you?
I'd be about 25. But I was in charge. I was a corporal. I was in charge of this armoured fighting vehicle altogether, including myself. There was 11 of us, and we were cram-packed inside this vehicle because there's not much space, and it's just full of ammunition and rations and water and that. And you learn to live with these people, and they're your mates. You know, you are a band of brothers because you're just together all the time. And we didn't think it was going to happen for the first few months, and then it got sort of the upbeat got more and more and more. We was just training all the time, lots of ammunition, all the war stock of ammunition. And then when it happened, it was all over in about 4 days, but it was a full-on scrap in them 4 days. And that's where, you know, armoured infantry section attack. And that's where we lost a couple of blokes, and I saw somebody get killed who were not far from us. And yeah, it was a full-on.
Yeah, because they says that's the second most troops that Britain's ever sent. The World War II and the Gulf was the next biggest with the amount of troops they sent out there. Is that correct?
I don't know.
I read that. But,
yeah.
But was there a lot of British there?
Yeah, there's an awful lot of British there, a lot of Americans. It was all the coalition. And yeah, it was our battalion did the first armoured infantry attack since the Second World War. This was A Company, I was in C Company, and then we did one. So it's full on, you know, you've got all the tanks and everything. And believe you me, when it's nighttime, you've got tanks rolling past you, and you running out on the ground, and you've got armoured fighting vehicles, and these bodies on the ground, and you're moving in the dark. It's quite scary because, you know, you don't get run over by a tank, and their peripheral vision is only so far. It's and then when it's for real, it's even more. Not scary, but it's like, God, you're doing the proper job. And that's young kids, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, most of them. And I was a corporal, as I said, I was 25, but I was seen as like really year-olds to them. But every one of them performed brilliantly and just did it. And that's because, like I said, the camaraderie and the amount of drills, you do drill, you know, you're doing something over and over and over again. And I understand why, because then when the shit hits the pan, and rounds are coming down at you, and you're in fire, under fire, automatically you kick into that drill. So when somebody tells you move, and so on, and do a right flanking, left flanking, and yeah. But to me, I got a lot of experience out of it. So I thought to myself, I'd already been in the military for 12 years. I've done 3 tours of duty of Northern Ireland, one as a private, one as a corporal in charge of 8 guys, another as a sergeant in charge of a full multiple, you know. That's a lot of guys. And then a full-on war, armoured infantry war. So by the time I went for the SAS, I thought, right, I've got a lot of experience. But I tell you what, within about 18 months, you've sort of done more than you've done in the previous 12 years. But the biggest difference is it's all informal. Everybody knows everybody by name. There's none of this bullshit, no saluting and marching or anything. You haven't got time for that. And it's none of that, you know. You're there to do a job, and it's an operational job, or training to do this job. And you know when you're getting sent, you're getting sent to strategic level. You know if you fuck up, this could cause these big problems and indications all around the world. And that doesn't mean there's lots of you going out. You can be sent out as an individual. You can be sent out as somewhere as 2s, or even just 4 of you. You'd be surprised what's going on around the world and the amount the responsibility you got. Whereas when you're joining normal army, you're sort of at tactical level. This is like strategic level. They put you out there. So it really is a fantastic job, and I take my hat off. We are the best. That's the British military is the best in the world. Well, we're the best country for a start. So we've got the best military in the world, not many of them. And then we've got the best special forces in the world. So we are the best, and we should be proud of it.
See, when you done the Gulf, what was it like losing a brother for the first time?
Yeah, that was the first time I saw somebody actually I've had somebody killed and friends killed in Northern Ireland, But to watch it happen in front of the eyes, he actually got hit by an RPG warhead. The full warhead hit him in the chest and killed him outright, and then it hit the vehicle. This is about 50 meters away from us, but it's just surreal watching it happen. But you was then still interested in your part as well. There's still other stuff going on, so you still had to carry on your advance, if you know what I mean. And it was only later on when we found out who it was and what happened, and then we had to just carry on anyway, because this was, I don't know, maybe on about day 2, and it didn't stop till day 4. So we just had to move, just carried on. But what I do remember is we was told to bury people out wherever they were hit or killed, and then mark the area with a GPS. We had body bags given us, and that's when you knew it was really serious, that when they give you a pile of body bags in the vehicle. And then, but our boss, he said no, our sergeant major said no, he's coming with us. And, they wouldn't, so they won't bury him there. They brought him, carried him with us.
So does your family get a heads up for that, to say, listen, if I die here, my body's not coming back?
I don't know. It's because his bodies, they came back.
Yeah, but the ones who were saying just bury, would they have just been left there for good, or would they went back and got them?
No, because they said, like, if anybody dies, you just bury him straight there and crack on, but you'd mark the grave with your GPS. So eventually they'd be able
back and
to
get
go
them.
back and get them. Yeah, that's
fucking scary though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Driving a truck with body bags, thinking, right, who's going in this?
And when you're told that as well,
but that's how you know that a lot of the military, a lot of the boys in the troops, they are fucked up in the head. Like, that's not normal to say, listen, I've got a car parked out here, there's body bags in it, not everybody's coming home, but yet everybody jumps in.
Yeah, and that's it. That's why you've got to have a dark sense of humour in the military when you're dealing with life and death. I always remember my friend, he got out the military and he says, bring something back from the Gulf War. He was writing to me. And I says, I've got you something, mate. And he goes, what have you got? It's like a golden weapon or something like that. And he thought it was, I goes, no, it's really valuable. And then I brought him, I met him in a pub, and we were all having a drink in our pub. He goes, come on, where's the present? What have you got me? And I brought him back a body bag. So we had to get in it then on the long seats. And, you can see, you got the stuff. We made him lie in this body bag for about 20 minutes.
But that's what you say. You need that dark humour to get you through, like, anything. Because humour is the best medicine. Laughter is the best medicine. But it's having to laugh in uncomfortable situations, which kind of gets you through. But I guess that's the one thing about men. Like, we go through so much different things in life. Like, women will never truly understand what a man truly battles, with the thought process and never feeling good enough and always competing and trying to survive and trying to provide. And listen, women do amazing things, but men bottle everything up no matter who you are. We keep it all within, and they'll never know the true depths of what a man's truly feeling. But when you're with, like, the most I've ever laughed, or the most I'll laugh is when I'm with the boys of the past, and it was fucked up times. It was a lot of drink, there was a lot of drugs, there was a lot of madness, but it was some of the best times because there was more of a connection that people understood you. You don't get that when you're doing things alone, or when you're kind of trying to do things, like when you're surrounded with people who are just as fucked up as you, it makes life okay.
Yeah, and also when you all the difficult times you've gone through together, at the end of it, and you go back and talk to your mates now and everything, it's just a laugh, and that banter, that British banter gets us through it. And how David Sterling, his ethos is everybody who gets into the SAS has got to live by this ethos or know it. I didn't know it, I heard it, but I didn't realise that everybody sort of lives by that afterwards. And that's part of that is a sense of humour. He says you've got to have a sense of humour. You've also got to have classlessness, humility, integrity, and the pursuit of excellence. And that's, if you think of all them, it's just fantastic. The classlessness, that means you can get on with anybody, what race, religion, whatever. You can get on with them. Humility, nobody likes somebody who's a big head. Everybody's got to have that humility. The integrity, that's massive. If you break that trust, there's no coming back. And in relationship, somebody's done a dirty on you, you'll never trust them again. So trust is everything. And believe you me, sometimes we fuck up in the SAS. People have forgot stuff and everything, but you can't hide it. You've got to put your hand up, or if you dropped a bollock, you've dropped a bollock. You've got to have that integrity. And then the pursuit of excellence, that's what I say to kids and that, because I talk to some schools and that. You've got pursue excellence means you can get what you want in life, but you've got to fucking wait for it. Whether that's practice in order, training in order, study in order. You know, you don't get anything for nothing. And then once you've done something, you've got to think, right, don't sit back on your laurels. Think, right, I can do better. Whether it's run faster, whether it's study better, wherever it is, always improve yourself. And that's the pursuit of excellence. Don't just think, right, I've done enough now. You know, you can go faster, run faster, study harder. If you want to be a lawyer, it's going to be a lot harder for you if you come from a rough council housing estate, but you can do it if you really want to. It means getting your ass down to these libraries and everything, but you can do more than what you think you can. And that's physically and mentally. So it's a great ethos.
See, after your first tour, was there anything in place to come back to speak to anyone about the deaths that you'd seen, the shootings? Was there anything to kind of decompress?
No, not back then. It was just a case of when anything, you just go on a piss, which I suppose is the worst thing, really.
Was there much suicide back then?
Yeah. Well, in my group, yeah.
Because I know
it's like later on, these sort of people kill themselves. But while I was in, I had a good friend, one of the lads who was with me for 5.5 months in that vehicle, who I thought I knew back to front. And then afterwards, he was with me on another island tour. I worked really close with him. He hung himself. And he was still in his teens. And I was just going on selection then. I'm like, God almighty, I managed to get back for the funeral on the weekend. But I'm like, what the fuck's happened? And yeah. And he was one of the people who actually, I hate to say this, but in his death sort of spurred me on selection, because I'd be thinking of him, you know, because he goes to me at the time, he goes, Sarge, if anybody gets in the SAS, you will. And he had like, there's Willa Flax. And so I'm like, right, I'm doing this for you, Flax. And I had another mate who was killed. And I thought, right, I'm doing this for my mates and stuff like that. That was part of my way of pushing me on, you know. You're not letting people down. Well, yeah, there is bad things happening. But I think now there's a lot more talking. And especially in the Special Forces and the SS. Fucking hell. Nobody'd ever talk about anything like that. You know, it's just crack on. You've killed people only doing your job, and then you've done your job. You have a good drink together, and away you go. And you know, that's how it is.
But I would imagine the SAS to be like that. Fucking shut up, get on with it. You know.
Yeah.
I guess that's why what makes them elite. And I always mention Peter McAleese. I interviewed Peter. He was SAS, SBS, SAS. And Peter was the man who was supposed to kill Escobar, and his helicopter crashed. I interviewed him in the old folks home. And I was saying to him, Peter, like, you have any regrets? He says, I was there to do a job. I got a mission and I'd done it to the best of my ability. He still had the twinkle in his eye. He still just owned it. A lot of people, sometimes I think when you can dwell into it and look into it and try and unravel it all, I think that's when your mind can completely go. But he says, I done what I done, I don't have any regrets, and I would do it again. And I thought, you know what, fucking good on you.
I would do it again in a heartbeat, and I would, because at the end of the day, I can sit back. I've done everything to the best of my ability, and anybody I killed was either enemy combatants who were in uniform and they would try and kill me. So that's, you know, that's legitimate. Or they were terrorists, insurgents, war criminals. They were even worse. They are scum, because they hide then. They will put an IED out and then just get back into civilian clothes and stuff like that. So, yeah. And to me, I've killed a few of them. So I've done the world a favour, because it is genuinely evil. And that's what people can't understand. Sometimes you've got to fight fire with fire. They don't realise everybody can't be rehabilitated. There's some genuine evil people out there. And unless you've been out to these situations and you know, and you've met or you've dealt with some evil gets, then people don't realise. And I'm talking about people who just butchers, basically. And, you know, they keep people, get them in boiler suits and cut off their heads, and you know the scum of the earth. See,
I was interviewing a sniper from Wales, actually, Ted, good kid. he was a sniper, but he was saying as well, like, these war criminals are the human trafficking of kids, the drugs, forcing families to grow, the drugs on the farms and stuff. Like, it's a lot of that stuff. So for me, soldiers, fair game. War criminals, I think that's just easy pickings. I think easy. Like, I wouldn't lose sleep over killing people who are destroying the world and abusing kids. Like, for me, that's easy work. But then again, you say that until you put a bullet in someone's head, and then obviously the nightmares might kick in. But I think sometimes in a service, like, I'll say, like, a dead paedophile's someone who can't reoffend. Like, for me, it's public execution. For people who harm kids, I think it's important for people to realise that we're not accepting that. But now again, sentences are too lenient, you know, for people that's in this wickedness of the world. What was your tour of Ireland like?
Well, it depends which one. I went on 3 tours and I saw the different areas, you know, and I found the area of, at the time, when it was in South Armagh, that was a really, at the time, it was known as bandit country. It was a real rough area on the borders, because they could take pop shots at you and put IEDs and then just get straight back across the border, and that was quite difficult. But I always remember a story about that. I'm walking along on a patrol, and one of this Irish guy shouts at me, he goes, "What are you doing here, soldier boy?" I goes, "I'm just doing my job." And he goes, "No, but you." And this is in the early 80s, and he goes, "I'm just doing my job." He goes, "Yeah, but you're black." And he goes, "Back in the UK, this is when all race riots are going on." He goes, "They don't like you. You were getting put down and everything." And he lived on a Catholic estate, and I must admit, the Catholic estates did seem more run down than the Protestant estates. And it got me thinking that, you know, he's thinking, right, okay, I'm a soldier, I'm doing this for my country, and yet there was a lot of race riots going on, and, you know, black people, this is the time again in the National Front, not banging on about that all the time, but it was all that sort of stuff going on, and like, yeah, it did get me thinking. Just for a brief moment, and I just cracked on, but yeah.
Why didn't it get you thinking though? You're fighting for a country who a lot of people at the National Front hate blacks.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you're fighting for these people who are fighting against you.
Yeah.
Like, it is an important question to ask and think, like, what the fuck am I doing?
I'm a young 19-year-old now thinking this. And also, there was parts of the army back then, there were no blacks were allowed in. You didn't see them. Even though they were allowed in from the 1968, they never got in. There was one black guy get in the Guards regiment, and it was something like 86 or something like that. Because my friend, I know the guy who's his platoon commander, he's very fierce platoon commander, and he got bullied out of it. And so we took over from a Guards regiment, and I'm like thinking, I'm not even allowed to go into them Guards units. There were certain regiments where you wouldn't see a black face. It's not now that they can go anywhere, but that was back then. So that did get me thinking, I'm in the British Army, yet parts of the British Army, I couldn't even go in. It's crazy, isn't it? And this is in my lifetime.
Yeah, that's fucked up, man. That's some 1600 shit. Like, did you ever watch the movie Men of Honor?
No.
It was Robert De Niro. Was it Robert De Niro or Al Pacino? And it was Jude Cuban Jr. He was a diver.
Yeah.
He lost his leg and ended up the best diver ever. But he couldn't get in anywhere. He was standing outside the gate for days on end. And eventually let him in for the training. And they'd done everything he could to jeopardise his training so he would fail. And he passed. He never broke. He stood tall and became one of the greatest divers of all time. He actually lost his leg as well and got the Medal of Honor. He got the top medal you can get. Oh, it was in America. I forget.
I think it is the Medal of Honor, isn't it?
It might be, but it was unbelievable movie. Unbelievable. Yeah. But again, it shows you what people have to go through. And because of his courage and strength, it then opened the doors for other people to follow suit.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so, but it must make you question that you're fighting for people who are then fighting against you because of your skin colour, and you're there to protect these people.
Yeah, it is a bit confusing. But then, as I say, it's just a tiny minority. It's always the same. A tiny minority can spoil it for the majority. And, you know, people are people.
How are you treated in Ireland?
Pardon?
What was the saying? No dogs, no blacks, no Irish, no...
Yeah, the saying when my dad and came across as well was like, no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. You're screwed if you're a black Irish wolfhound, aren't you?
Tell me this, I interviewed someone from the British Army. They says the British were there to help the Irish, not to help the Protestants. I know obviously we had the IRA and the British Army, then the hate between each other, but was the British Army sent there to bring peace?
Yeah, they were there for everyone. You know, it was just that, as I said, I saw the Catholic estates, they seem worse than the Protestant estates. And obviously being in the military, there was really, what was it, the Ulster Defence Association or the UDA, and so there was bad paramilitary loyalist groups as well as bad paramilitary
and both sides.
Catholics.
Yeah, the IRA and the UDA.
To me, they all come the terrorists. Fucking hell. So I would...
but how do you feel when they call you a terrorist?
Oh, God. You know,
did you get that?
Yeah, I've had it from on the Catholic side and that. But it was just weird because you go to one, you could cross the street in one area and then it's like the Protestants there or the Union Jacks flying and they're giving you cups of tea and biscuits and all the rest of it and you're safe. And then you go across to the other side of the estate and they just hate you being there. You know, they've got a trick of the flying. It's just
tricolour.
a different, tricolour. It's just a different divide. And in a way, you know, you see it in football teams and everything and Stoke. I mean, is it Celtic and Rangers? There's a lot of hatred going on. It's so bad, in different areas. And
Celtic Rangers will never change. It's kind of stopped the singing as much because the singing was pure hatred. But I've got to be honest, I do hate the hatred when it's during the game. I hate the kind of conflict because we're men, we're fucking, we're hunters. You know what I'm saying? It's tribalism. Like you support your own, but. Because I feel like with family members for weeks on end and friends because of the bitterness of football scores, but it's after it and realising, okay, wait a minute, this is stupid. But I think why the Celtic Rangers game is so popular is because of the hatred for each other from the Protestants and the Catholics for Celtic and the Irish and Rangers being British and patriotic and the Queen. But the divide is massive. It's nowhere near as bad as it used to be. With the hatred, it's a lot calmed down now. Like I say, even during the matches, used to have all the songs, and it was. Listen, as much I fucking loved it when I grew up, man. I loved the hatred, if I'm honest. But as you get older, you realise the divide is bollocks. You realise that's what they want. Everybody hate each other from religions, from sports teams. Everybody's has got that divide. They have got that divide, and that's what makes us easier to control.
Yeah, but. You know, on the football, I like football. I love football. Love going. I'm a Stoke City supporter, and but I don't like all the violence. But just the banter with the banter with different songs and stuff like that. Because we played Wrexham the other day,
and the Derby,
and the idea of blow sheep. And all you see was the sheep getting bounced about, and even the Wrexham supporters were having a laugh about it. You know, that's that type of banter. But
we don't get that in Glasgow, though. We get fucking killings, we get stabbings, we get brutality, we get pure hatred because people genuinely believe in Britain, people genuinely believe. There's people in Glasgow, born in Glasgow, believe they're Irish because they support Celtic, you know. So we've got pure hatred when it comes to the old firm. I was raised in that, so I don't see any different. Like English support is different from Scottish Scottish support. Like you can have friendly jokes. Up there, it's fucking pure hatred when it's Old Firm Day. Like it's madness. Like they hate for each other. Has it calmed down? I believe it has, but it could kick off. Like what happened in Ireland, I used to always think it could happen in Scotland. You know, because of the Celtic, because the Celtic Rangers connection, and that's how sad it is. And when you look at the Irish killing the Irish, it is sad. It's heartbreaking killing your own, all because of divide. Because people want to be British, people want to be Irish, and I can see arguments on both sides. Why doesn't Ireland want to be independent? Why wouldn't they want to be a free country, same as Scotland as well? You know, but I can see the arguments, but they're easy to control because of the football team and religions they support.
Yeah, it's crazy. And as I said, I remember going over to Ireland and I still on the first tour, then a few years later, another tour, and then again as a sergeant. And I still didn't understand all the political, you know, infighting and everything. You're just there as a soldier to do a job, and that's protecting everyone, as far as I'm concerned. And you're protecting your country, you know.
What's the worst thing you've seen in Ireland?
In Ireland, as I said, I've had a mate killed over there, but I haven't seen really bad atrocities in Ireland. You know, I know they've been there, but no, I've done cordons for when they've gone off, but I haven't had any full-on ding-dongs. Like when I was out with the news crews and working in Baghdad once I left it, SAS, that's where I saw some really carnage. I saw a lot in the SAS, don't get me wrong. And even in the first Gulf War, we stopped on the Basra Road, and that was just like a 6-lane highway, and it's all just being shot up and bombed. And there were just bodies everywhere. And we had to stay there for a couple of days, and it was just stinking. It was just corpses after corpse, you know. But going over to Iraq this time, not as a soldier, because I was in Iraq as within the SAS, and if you would have got killed doing your job in the SAS in Iraq, you would have been coming home as there was said, "Oh, a hero, he's died doing his job." But then when you go over there to make some money, when you leave the SAS with other SAS guys, so you're armed and you've got weapons, and I was looking after news crews, it was a case of, oh, if they died over there, they're just a mercenary. But that was our skill level. You go to there and make the money. But at this time when I left, it was like, I was there from 2001 end of 2005, all for, I had 4.5 years, and it was when the bombs were going off everywhere. And I mean, we weren't living in the secure green zone. We was with the press and living outside of the secure green zone. We're living in this hotel until that got blown up. But with the press, they go straight out, and you'd be with them in just low-profile cars, so you can get in somewhere and get back out without being recognised that much. And they'd go in, so as soon as a massive car bomb went off, we'd just be racing there and just seeing the aftermath and try and get reports about it. And the carnage then was just unreal, you know.
This was close protection.
Yeah.
Did you just have the media
tops on? We had the media tops and that, but a lot of times you should just get there and without media tops, because we just wanted to blend in. And it was just because at the time they wanted the terrorists, they wanted to get an American journalist in an orange boiler suit. So they were a massive target. And I was looking after American news crew. So there was only 2 of us. 2 guys would go out with a news team. So you'd go out with a cameraman and a sound man in one car, and the correspondent in the other car, and you'd have a Iraqi driver in both cars, and then you'd go with them, and you were their protection. But it's all in civvies. You'd have a pistol down your pants, and you'd have a long rifle and then full rifle in a tripod bag. So if anybody's seen you, they think you're just all part of this news crew. And then as soon as they see the Western news crew, and especially if you're in a really bad area, you see people, you know, getting on the bat phones wanting to get the tallying up. And you can it's just by being situational awareness, having your eyes on the ground and looking at what's happening around you, that it's time to move now, you know what I mean? Because we've been clocked here for too long. And you had no protection apart from yourselves. And then any time they could have been out there and try and kidnap you. So we had some really close escapes out in Ireland, I swear. But yeah, it was really weird, because I'd see my friends, the SAS, who were still in the green zone, the secure zone, and they'd be going out on missions, dangerous missions, you know, of a night, and then coming back. So they're going on the offensive, but we were sort of on the defensive. So we're going on dangerous places, the same areas where they go, but trying to report news. And they say, "Fucking hell, man, you're mad. There's only 2 of you. We go in a big load of us trying to get these bad people in these bad areas, and you go in just a couple of you." And sometimes I used to pinch myself and think, yeah, it is a bit fucked up, man.
So after your tours then, what was the decision to join the SAS after 10 years?
I wanted to join the SAS a while before.
Why didn't you?
Because, again, this is going back to the old quality thing. I was going to put in for it, and we had the guys, because I was the second ever bloke in my regiment to get in the SAS. There was 1 officer got in as well. So altogether, from when our unit was formed in 1959, when it was amalgamated, the Staffordshire Regiment, there was only ever 3 blokes got in, 2 blokes and 1 officer. And as I said, I was the second ever bloke. Now, a few more of them got in once I got in. But I remember, nobody knew anything about the SAS, but I remember seeing about them, and obviously in the early 80s when you saw the balcony go off and on the Iranian embassy and that. I thought, I want some of this. And I was going to put my paperwork in, but this one guy, we had a lot of people go for it, but nobody get in. They come back with horror stories, and this guy come back, and I goes, "I won't go for the SAS." He goes, "You can't." I goes, "Why is that?" He goes, "Because you're black." I goes, "What's that got to do with it?" He goes, because they do all the undercover work in Northern Ireland. They have to sit in bars in Belfast and gain information. I thought, oh yeah, that's the sort of stuff they do then. Oh, I can't go. So I thought nothing of it. It just so happened that we had an officer come to our unit, and he was ex-SAS. He did 2 years, because the officers just do 2 years and then come back to their original units and maybe go back again. And he's come and saw me, and he goes, "Couple of hours, have you ever thought about going to the SAS?" By this time, I'm full corporal, and he was doing really well. I goes, "Yeah, but I can't." And he goes, "Why not?" And I told him the story, and he just pissed himself laughing. He goes, "Of course you couldn't be sitting in a Belfast bar. You haven't got ginger hair and freckles, for fuck's sake." He goes, "But they go all around the world. It's totally different. Go for it." So this was like about 5 years from when a previous was going to put in for it. I'm like, I'd never gone for it. I most probably would have never gone for it if this officer hadn't told me. So that's how little we knew about it. So I went for it. And yeah, fortunately I got in, and I never looked back. I enjoyed every minute of it. And I enjoyed all my military career, but the SAS was just something different. It really was, because when you're behind enemy lines, you look back, there's only so much you can do. And you're behind enemy lines in the desert area, you're in just a few vehicles, and you are just like, it's like going back to original David Sterling's days. You're riding round, but you've got a few quality blokes, and you're in the rear echelons, and you were hitting massive units of the night time and then moving out. You just stun them. You know what I mean? It was just like something from Mad Max, hitting these areas. And what we did out there, you create havoc. You know, they thought they were getting it by lots of people there. I mean, a battalion or whatever, and it was just small units. But it's got to have quality guys in there. And then we get brought into Baghdad, and you're doing the same again. You're not just on one house raid. Sometimes it was 2-3 house raids a day. It was crazy.
What was the training like?
Training for the SAS? What do you mean once I've got it?
Once you started?
Yeah.
What's the training for selection? Because I know you go to the jungle and stuff, and you do all the holes and running.
The selection part was extremely difficult. It really was. But everybody thinks it's all about the mountainside. Don't get me wrong, they get rid of a lot of people on that, because I don't care who you are and how much you train. When you're doing it every single day up these mountains, and you're tabbing, you don't know how far you've got to go, and all you know is that every day your packs are getting heavier and heavier, and you're just slogging your guts off, trying to find your way from one checkpoint to another. And then sometimes you think you're finished, and then you'll go all night, and then you think you're finished again, and then you'll go all day again. And it's just they're not knowing, and nobody tells you you're doing well. Nobody tells you you're doing shit, you know what I mean? And again, in the normal military, you're used to being told if you drop a bollock or doing crap, they usually tell you. Or if you're doing well, they might even smile at you there. It's all bland. They don't even want to know your name. You're just a number, to tell you the truth. But because if you think about it, you'd have to be extremely fit and really dedicated. But if you could tab with a lot of equipment, okay, and you were very good at navigation, and you've got that determination, you might be able to pass the hills phase. But it's afterwards, then when you go into the jungle, that's when they really start looking at you, because you have to be at the soldiering as well. You have to be a soldier, and this is where one instructor look at about 4 of you, and you watch 24/7. You're stuck in that jungle canopy where everything wants to sting you, bite you, stab you. You're stinking, and you're watched, all the time. And even when you think you're not being watched, of a night, you sometimes hear a little movement, and one of the DDS will be in there and be looking through night vision goggles, because he's looking for the people as well who are working when nobody's there. You know what I mean? They aren't looking for the DS watchers. They're looking for the guys who are working as a team and helping each other and so on, not just being Jack and helping the cells. So that's sort of one of the main areas where you're picked.
How many started selection process with you?
Mind, it was well over a couple hundred. I best not say the exact number, because I don't know if they don't really like you saying that. But there's always top of them. There's always well over 200. And at the end, there was an handful of us, just 6 SAS and a couple of the 4 SBS, and then a couple of officers. So, no, it was the 2 officers. They were involved. About 10 of us finished at the end. It was hardly anybody.
What was the hardest process for you? What was the hardest day for you? Did you ever think about quitting?
Oh, I thought about quitting. Everybody thinks about quitting, but not so much on the hills, because you get sores, your back's sore, your body's sore, you're just aching all the time, To me, the hardest part was the interrogation. Because you put it this way, on the physical side, you're pushed to your breaking point, your physical limit, where you can't go on anymore. It's designed to do it that way, but not injure you. Unfortunately, some people have actually died doing the SS course, maybe through getting lost and going down in with hypothermia, or it's exhaustion, but because they really push you. But they don't want anybody injured or die, obviously, but they push you to that breaking point. But on the interrogation side, they try and push your mind, but without breaking it, if you understand what I mean, because we're prone to being captured behind enemy lines, obviously. So you've got to be able to remember a cover story and not give away valuable information for so long. And then they can change all the codes or anything if they've not heard from you. So it really is difficult. So you go through this process of going on the run for many days and nights without any food and being hunted by police, dog handlers, helicopters, the infantry units, and you got nothing. You got no food, no nothing. And if you get to, say you've done, I don't know how many miles through the night, so it's a lot of miles to get to a checkpoint. And if you get there, they give you one piece of bread and a tiny bit of cheese, and then you go on to the next checkpoint. So the idea is you move all the way through the night, and then in the daytime, you just bury yourself in the shittiest place you can, areas where it's all marsh or full of stingy nettles, and you just lie there all day, freezing cold and wet, trying not to be located by dogs and people looking for you. Because if they capture you, then you'll get beasted for a few hours and you get sent out again, so you don't get captured. But at the end of doing this for so many days and nights, several days and nights, you're completely knackered. There's nothing left in you, and then you go into an interrogation for 36 hours, and that's just like, God, it's mind-numbing, because your mind just is gone, because you've got white noise, you've got blindfolds on, and you've got flashing lights, and you can see the lights through your blindfold, and then you've got a noise, just like a big white noise, and it's so loud, and you're just in these stress positions, and you're in agony, and every now and again they'll just grab you and take you into a room, pull your blindfold off, and then start interrogating you. And for instance, I remember just getting interrogated, and the person I'm talking to, the head was just turning to Mickey Mouse. I'm talking to a fucking big mouse here, because he was hallucinating. Serious. But I've told the story.
What the fuck was on the cheese, bro?
I don't know, mate. But I've told this story a few times. One of the funniest parts, though, was they had this woman in the interrogator, and I was like, God almighty, I was completely knackered. And previous to this, my mate, who were met on the run, we were both on the run together, he went down to this farmhouse. Now, you shouldn't be allowed, if you were anywhere 200 metres near a building or a road, you kicked it off the entire course. But he went down to the bins, tried to get some food, because we knew we needed some energy. We hadn't had anything to eat for many days and nights. And he come running back, and he had this jar of salad cream, well, a squeezy plastic thing with about a third of jar, not full, about a third of full up of this salad cream. And I had to look at the label. It was out of date for a long time. I goes, I'm not eating that. And he got a stick and he was dipping it in. Yeah. And he's like, come on, bro, eat this. I thought, no, I can't do that. It's minging. It's stinking. Anyway, I was on this interrogation, and the woman, it will all come together in a minute. They had this woman, and she was interrogating me, and she had lots of perfume on, and she had this black tight top. They all had black tops on and all that. But she had a big chest on her, and she was really gorgeous. Like, I'm a young lad now. I'm like, I'm trying to think of something else. So I undress her in my mind. Now I'm completely naked at this time, and as I'm standing there, I undressed her, and I'm just like, I'm thinking of it. Next minute, all the blood gets straight to my loins. So I suddenly get bone on. I'm like, oh shit. And she just burst out. She's going, get that dirty nigger out of here. But then she burst out laughing. And I started laughing, even though we've totally got to take it serious. And I thought, oh God, they're going to kick me off the course. And he pulled me out put the blindfold on me again, brought me outside somewhere and got a freezing cold hose pipe on me. I'm naked, getting all this freezing cold water on me. And then in my mind, I knew I had 36 hours of interrogation, even with a blindfold on. And what they teach you, I was trying to think how long I've got left. And because you've got no idea of the time, I remember the guards used to change over because I was smelling a different guard, and then another guard would change over. And so I thought in my mind, they're doing shifts of 4 hours. So I was clocking up a time appreciation, thinking, right, I've not got long left, because it finishes, say, 11 o'clock on the morning after 36 hours. And this was in July when I did mine. So I had in my mind, I've got about 4 hours left. I thought it was about 8 o'clock and he's finishing at 11, something like that. And in my mind, I thought, I'm nearly there, because I was at breaking point. I was in agony. Anyway, when they get me outside and they put this hose pipe on me, and it lifted my mask up, and it was still dark. Now in July, it gets light about, 4 or 5. So to me, I'm like, fucking hell, it's about 11 o'clock at night. I've still got another 12 hours, 8 hours. I thought, that broke me then. I thought, I can't go on anymore. I knew I could go on for about 4 hours. I thought, I nearly put my hand up, and they put me back in the stress position, and I was in agony. And next minute, I hear somebody else getting pulled in, and it's one of your lads. And he was crying. He was crying like a baby. And I thought, who's that? And this guy who I met up, who got the salad cream, he was a very funny looking guy. He was from the SBS. He had a complete bald head here on top, but he had hair all around the side. Instead of shaving it all or getting it really low, normal, he had it growing, and it was growing out. And because he'd been on the run for about 7 days and nights, when I saw him, it was all over the place. He looked like Krusty the Clown, of The Simpsons. And I remember seeing him thinking, fucking hell, you look so weird, like a mad professor. So all I could have. And then what I thought, I was thinking, who the hell is that now? He's crying like a baby. He's in a worse state than me, because I just felt like giving up. And then all I got was this whiff of salad cream. I thought, that's Krusty. That's the mad professor, So his agony sort of gave me a bit more drive. It got me through it. It's a strange way, isn't it? But yeah.
Why do they use the woman for the interrogation and the SAS selection? Is that for the hallucinations, like you say, you must have been only one to get a hard on in SAS selection, because the majority of people are struggling. It just shows you how fit you are, brother, how much testosterone you've actually got. But what's the process? What's the meaning behind that? Bringing a woman in, tits out, kind of lipstick, smells good.
Yeah.
What is the process behind that?
Well, before I get to that, why I got an all on, because I was out living in the woods and running, getting chased by enemy for 7 days and nights or wherever it was, and I never actually
had one.
Yeah. So by the time I got there, I had a great big bollock bag, and I was like that, and then suddenly there's a beautiful girl and a woman with nice perfume. But no, I don't know. But we do have women interrogators and that, because they're fantastic. And sometimes,
but it's
some people,
yeah.
For instance.
But it's man's biggest weakness.
Yeah.
If you get a good-looking woman, man, it can destroy many men. So it's a perfect tactic in my eyes.
I don't think it was that. I was thinking it also embarrasses people, because this woman was making me strip naked, making me turn around, touch my toes, pull your butt cheeks apart. I thought, after 7 days now, I wouldn't like to see that. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay. Whereas some officers before, and some people in the past have said, I've had enough. I've been too humiliated. And that has happened. You think, fucking hell, it's not for real.
But can you separate it from being real and being training? Do you actually think that maybe you have been captured? Does that ever sink in?
Yeah, well, we had to treat it as if we had been captured. We couldn't, we were told we got to take this deadly serious, and you do. So I was thinking it was all for real and that, But if that was for real, I would have still thought this woman had still got an hard on and would have got themselves, strung up. But yeah, I was a young guy.
So what happens after the interrogation?
Yeah, and then once we've done that, they basically say, right, okay, you're passing. But it's not a big parade. It's just like chucking your berry to you. And it goes right down, you're going to D squadron, somebody else is going to A squadron, because we've got 4 Sabre squadrons. They're the fighting squadrons. They're all the same, but they just push you around wherever they need people. There was no big parade or anything. And this officer, he goes, just make sure you beat the clock. I thought, what the fuck's he mean? And there's only been about the odd year where nobody has had the name put on the clock tower. Now, if you get killed on operations or in training, you get your name on the clock tower. And so that's what they mean by beating the clock, because we've got like this big clock, it's like a regimental clock. And yeah, so I beat the clock.
Were you proud? Was there ever a moment you felt proud? Was your mum, dad, were they still alive?
Yeah, they were both still alive. My dad didn't know I was in the SAS for a good 3 years.
Why?
Because I never told him. And I didn't tell anyone. It was just that, because as I said, nobody got in from my unit. I got in. Most of my unit, my old unit, a lot of them are from Stoke-on-Trent. So people started to know each other and started talking. And some of the lads on my estate, a lot of people on the estate were in the military and in my unit. So my dad got to hear about it. And he had to ask me if I was in the SAS. And I told him. And he's so proud of me being in the army anyway. I used to get embarrassed sometimes. You go home having a drink with him. He's like, my son is in the army. I'm like, Dad, come on, leave it out. So when I got on the SAS, he was just over the moon.
Why didn't you tell him?
That was in the SAS.
Yeah, to be proud that you finished one of the hardest training in the world. To be like, they've made him proud that, like, because it was, like you say, he was proud you've been in the army. Never mind the elite.
Yeah.
Like, why? What was stopping you from telling him?
I didn't tell him because you shouldn't really tell anyone, and obviously
so you were just following the code of honour.
I was just following the code, yeah. So yeah.
Out of little face, couldn't it?
Now, people say, "Oh, should you not talk about that?" I says, "I was on the TV show for what was broadcast. I've had my head above the parapet, so I talk. Obviously, I will only tell you what I can tell you. I'll never jeopardise national security, and because these people out there now looking after us all the time, the SAS are doing a great job, and I've got nothing but respect for them. And people don't realise they're keeping this country safe. Yeah, so you can sleep, happy in your beds of a night time, and I'd never jeopardise that. But I do believe that and people say, "Oh, you've got a book." Yeah, but that's just my story. There's nothing in my book what is not public knowledge. I have to go through the Ministry of Defence and through the SAS disclosure cell to get my book published. Do you see what I mean? So I would never disclose any secret information, but it's just my life basically. And it was only after the book was finished that people said, "Wow, that's such a resilient book." I didn't do it for be a resilient book. I just did it about my life, and if it helps some people, in fact, it's great.
But you seem a man of honour, you seem a man of code, you seem a man of principles, and if you had a regiment or you had a platoon or whatever, you would want you in it, because of your respect, your resilience, never quitting. Like, it's a beautiful thing to have.
Yeah, and I like that, because to me, I was lucky having my dad. I grew up with still both parents in an household, and I love my dad to and my mom, but my dad, he was the old Jamaican culture. If I were ever back chatting my mom, it'd be the bout off, and you get a bout. You know what I mean? This was in the day when we used to get the cane still at schools and everything. And I was shit scared of him. And he said, if you ever bring the police or you back chat your mom, that's it. And that would be a big no-no. So one thing, I was just scared of bringing the police around to my house, and I didn't want to jeopardise getting in the army. And this was at the time when all my mates, well, not all of them, a lot of the lads in my peer group were going out robbing factories and houses and stuff like that. And I'd never done that anyway, because I remember what it was like when I got my house burgled. But they were saying, "Come on, Mal, just come with us and keep lookout and everything." And I just didn't. And I'm glad, because they all got caught and did time in Borstalls and all the rest of it. But I had the main reason I didn't do it, I had that principles from my dad, like, you know what I mean? No.
When did you have your first kill? Was it before SAS or after?
Well, I was in the first Gulf War, but you don't know really if you killed anyone. If you're firing at certain people, but you don't know if they're going down. But in the SAS, you do. It's inevitable. It's not if, it's when, because at the end of the day, it's like being a striker every year. The SAS at the top tier. So to me, it's like a Premiership team, but being the Premiership striker, that's what they are. And you won't be a very good striker after 12 years if you haven't scored many goals. And I don't mean that in a bragging way, but it's inevitable. Well, look, most of the time it's from a range or of a night time and through a scope. So you don't really appreciate. Sometimes we don't even see what we've done, but you just see people go down. So you've got them, or you might get information, or you've seen them. You've hit that person. But when you do it close and personal, I've been in situations where I've had to fight using a weapon like a modern day club, trying to get somebody, not kill him, to try and stop him. And he had a weapon, and I had weapons, but I was doing everything within my power to take the person alive. As I said, so to me, I can remember just seeing the person, seeing the life go out of him when I did actually shoot him and kill him. But I watched the life just go out of him. And then as I heard the last gargle, and I've been grappling with him, touching him and fighting him. But then the smell, that always gets me, because it was a smell of blood and carbine, because you fired your weapon. So smell of blood, carbine and sweat, and just watching that happen, the only thing I didn't do is bite him, so that was 4 of the senses. And that is, you can't get any close personal than that. But he deserved it, and there's nothing else I could do. But sometimes, you want to, it's not like how people think. A lot of times we want to take people, we need to try and capture people, even though some of these scumbags deserve to just be killed. You want to get them so that we can get information out of them. And plus, we go by a code, we still work by the Geneva Convention, even though these are fucking terrible people. Sometimes you've got to try and take them alive, if possible.
See, the fighting side of things, the combat, do you get taught that self-defence in the SAS as well, or does that come naturally with being put in these danger zones?
You do self-defence, but you don't do loads of it. You aren't all ninjas or anything, but believe you me, you've got to have that in you. And it's controlled aggression. People say, oh, you're such a nice guy. I'm like, fucking hell, yeah, because I'm not a madman. But you've got to be able to spin on a sixpence, and when it comes down to it, you've got to be able to do that. You've got to be able to take a life. But it's only when it's there's nothing else that's been necessary. And I'm not a violent person at all. But if if you're in a fight, then you're going to have to be in a fight. And I don't care how big the person is. You'll do everything. You bite, scratch, try and get his eyes out. Because you will. Because you go back to that native mode of it's violence. And let's face it, it's an extreme violent world. And sometimes you've got to be able to spin on it, but it's all controlled aggression,
Does the killing become easier?
It's not easy. You don't think about it. You're doing the right job. As I said, I take my hat off. I'm happy that I've killed people or certain people because they're terrorists. They're evil. As I said, anybody who I've killed has either been an enemy combatant or a terrorist or war criminal, or insurgent. These are all total scumbags. And the only people I really feel sorry for was the enemy combatants. They are fellow people in uniform. Well, a lot of them didn't really want to be there because they're conscripts. But at the end of the day, they try and fucking kill you. They're shooting at you as well. So
it's a mad world.
It's a mad world. But you don't go. It's not because you want to do it. As I said, if you want to kill people, you'd be locked up in a psychiatric ward, wouldn't you? It's just that was your job. And you've got to have people who are willing to step up and do that for safeguard the country,
How many missions, obviously you can't touch on everything, but how many missions do you get sent out for? You get on the monthly, or is it yearly?
No, it's not. You take, I can't talk too much about it, but you take over certain roles. You might be on the counter-terrorist team, you might be on a certain role, you might be on a training role. And then it depends, you might go out to a certain country where there's problems, and then it depends what happens and what the missions are, but I can't talk about what the missions are because I know I'd get myself fucking locked up.
Where's the most dangerous place you've been?
I'd say in Baghdad when it just fell, when it was chaos. We were there, we were out in the desert beforehand, and and then we was in Baghdad when it was bonkers. It was just chaos. It was just really, so you've gone from being in rural areas, fighting out in the desert, and then suddenly you're in urban areas. And it was just craziness, that was, in parts of it. But some areas in Bosnia, there's lots of places, and some places I can't tell you about, where you've seen really bad atrocities, and there's a lot going on. There's more going on than what people think.
What's the worst thing you've seen?
Up close and personal.
Anything that repeats itself on your mind.
I don't know what is the worst thing. I've seen like carnage of when bombs have gone off, but I've also seen what's happened when people have been, killed and then left and buried, and unmarked graves, and we found unmarked graves and stuff like that. You know, watching them get dug up. There's a lot, but it's when kids are involved as well. When you've seen kiddies getting, you know, remains of their children and stuff like that. Because as I say, some evil people, they don't give a fuck. Yeah, women, children, they just want criminal. They want do the worst atrocities. What will make people sick? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They just scum.
See, being so fit and healthy, because you must have been under 10% body fat. Your photos, you're ripped. Is that a hindrance as well because you've got so much energy and you need to burn it? But by being so athletic sometimes, when you've just got so much energy, like you don't know what to do, can it be a bad thing as well when you're training so hard and come so fit?
Yeah. People get this wrong opinion. If you see a lot of the SAS guys, you think, fuck me, they ain't in the SAS, because they aren't all mega fit, ripped or anything, but they can all fucking do that job. They won't stop. They'll carry on with that equipment. But to me, I just enjoy fitness. But don't get me wrong, I enjoy a drink as well. I admit it. I like having a good drink and I like the fitness. But if, for instance, if I had a drink the night before, I will still make sure I'm out and going for a tab, going for a run. I can't just lie on this sofa and just feel sorry for myself. It don't matter how bad I feel, I will go out and push myself and go for an hard run. And you'd be surprised, after about 30 minutes, you're back with the world. You've got that fresh air in you and you push yourself. You know, you might be sick along the way, but you push yourself and really... And to me, I have to release energy every most days. You know, you've got to get that... I
guess that's where your hard-ons come from.
You won't get that hard on. No, it's them endorphins. You've got to get out there and do stuff. And you've got to do stuff because it's hard. Otherwise, everybody do it. Don't think, right, I'm not doing that because it's hard. You want to take the hard, the difficult job, the difficult task, or push yourself and just say, I get my mind right tomorrow. This is what I'm going to do. I make sure I'm up and doing it no matter what. And I don't care how bad the weather is. I'll just go out and do it, you know? And it's just making sure you just keep up that fitness. Now, I was mega fit when I was in the SAS. A lot of people here, but sometimes I used to just go a bit beyond, you know what I mean? And not just me, a few of us, even though we were stuck in the jungle, we'd make a pull-up bar and do pull-ups and still carry on training. Even though we were completely knackered, you just let everything out, you know? And I just enjoyed that life. It's fantastic.
Yeah, because I seen old photos of you when you were training and had the pull-up bar and stuff, and you were just completely going for it still. And like you says, it's when you're still tired and still pushing the boundaries and still trying to burn off energy.
Yeah, you're just like... And this is like you're stuck in the jungle and you're starting to get run down. There's nothing in you. I mean, every time you have a shit, you have to have a look at it. And it's not nice when you look at your shit and you see all these little worms, all these little tiny tapeworms in there, these little white things like maggots sticking out your poo. And you think, they were inside my body, you know, because everybody gets worms, or most people do.
From where? From what?
It's just from living out there, from getting bitten, or whatever, but it bears yourself inside you. It's just the environment. You know, your hands, you can't wash your hands every single time. You're living in stink and grime and that, and you know, you could eat something or whatever, but you all get worms. But I actually got a tracking worm. So once you come out, they just give you one big tablet or a couple of big tablets, and that kills all the worms inside you, the normal worms. But there was something called a tracking worm. I never heard of it. And
what is worms?
This worm, a tracking worm.
Worm?
That's what they called it. And it was like weeks later, I kept on having an itch, scratching my thigh. And I thought, what's this? And then I noticed like there was just a line going along, and it seemed to be inside the skin, getting further and further and further. This big, I've still got a mark there, like a red line. And I went to the doctors on and he goes, oh, you've got a tracking worm. So basically there's something there, what's been tunneling along my body, but just on near the skin. And he just he got some really cold, not gel, spray. You know what athletes have for injuries when they put cold spray, and he just froze the fucker to death, and he died there. But I've still got the scar there. Because you're in a rainforest, tropical medicine, they're still finding an awful lot about it now. You know, they've got little beasts what get inside you. For instance, I remember going on a squadron exercise, and about a third of the squadron was actually taken off. They all got leishmaniasis.
What's
this
that?
is the jungles where something buries itself in you, and basically, they all come out, and weeks later, they come out in these massive boils, and it's got me. And what they have to do then is go into sort of a tropical medicine hospital. There's not many of them in the UK. And they get the bodies flushed out like for about 2 weeks. Like it's like they're on drips getting a complete cleanup. And they come out of there and they're all just like ghosts, you know, and then they build back up. But yeah, because we was in one part in the jungle and it was a really dirty jungle, these guys, a third of them got leishmaniasis. They got cured from it. But I do know people who long-term, years later, have come down with some really serious diseases and stuff's gone on with the body, and it's been brought down to when he was on a jungle trip from something what's happened in the jungle, and years later it's caught up with him. It's just bonkers. The tropical medicine and that, you know.
I seen one of your documentaries. You had a picture of everyone you'd served with, and you were just pointing out basically everyone dead, suicide, dead, suicide.
Yeah.
Like, how hard is that, seeing fellow brothers who went through the toughest process ever to then come back and just don't want to be here?
That was horrible, because it was only, I was looking at a platoon, this was in the Stafford's, and then I was looking where I was sitting, because we won the champion platoon and I was a platoon sergeant. They've got me young lieutenant in, they give you a big trophy, you know, and you forget this champion platoon, you do all the fitness, your platoon's got to be fit, and then everyone else, you've got the best shots and all this sort of stuff. But I was just looking at this old photograph, and then I noticed that people around me, I'm like, he's dead now. And you know, you're remembering names. I thought, he's dead, he's suicide. And I thought to myself, well, if that's my platoon in the normal army, and that's basically the same in other platoons and other regiments, you mirror that going through the military. How many people are committing suicide? How many people that have lost it and are homeless and so on? It's scary, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So I did think, wow, here by the grace of God, go on.
Because a lot of men who I speak to who were ex-military, the majority of them have tried to take their own life.
Yeah, I know a lot of them have. And I'll tell you now, I've been through a time, and this was when I was in the military, when I put a pistol to myself and I felt like do myself in. And that was because I was going through a really bad emotional problem. I'll take it like this. I told you when I first joined the military, I was 16 years old and my dad gave me a few quid. Roll on 16 years later, I've gone through a bitter divorce. I was doing I was on top of my game in the SAS. And then through a bitter divorce and everything else, I found myself back in the barracks. But this time 50 grand in debt, not being able to see my kid and everything. And you're like, God almighty, what's happened to my life? And that's when you can see how easy it can be. I'm like, for fuck's sake. Yeah.
Fucking women, brother. Like, listen, I'm going through it myself, mate. And the people who probably watch my podcast from like 2022 till now, like, you'll see the change, the putting on a bit of weight, the kind of losing yourself because of, I'm going through family courts and criminal courts, and I think, man, I don't fucking deserve this. But you've got to stay strong, and it just shows you this is the toughest of the toughest.
Yeah.
What a woman can do.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, it's not all men are saints, but not all women are fucking angels either.
Tell you what, James, as I said, I remember back in the barracks, and we was on the counter-terrorist team at the time, and your mates were just taking out, getting you pissed, and that's all they wanted to do. And I'm like, I've got no money, I'm 50 grand in debt, I can't see my balls are doing it in the bottle. And I just said, right, fuck it. I'm stuck in these barracks, but what I have got is a gym, and I used to just train before work, train after work, and when I'm getting a bit wrapped off, I train again. I stop the booze and I just like train. And it's amazing. A few years, you know, you go through difficult times, but something that, and I think it's the same grit what my dad taught me and getting in the SAS, that I thought, right, no, I'm not going to let anybody beat me. And I just carried on and on and on. And before you know it, yeah, things will turn out for you. It's hard work, but you know, I got good postings, then I got a good job. I got out, got a good job, even though it was looking after the press. It was still dangerous as fuck, and I was with other SAS guys, but the money was good. And I did that for 4 years. Then I ended up doing bits and bobs, but then I went working for the UAE Special Forces, instructing them, and that was really good money. So I had 14 years of living out there, and that, you know, it just, life turns out all right. So, yeah.
What was it like coming to the end of the SAS? Was that your own decision, or was that medical?
No, I could have stayed on for longer. I did my full time,
What is
You know,
your full time in the SAS? Have you got to serve how long?
say if you've done, you do your 22 years, but then you can stay on for longer and longer. You know, these all different jobs. They want you to stay on longer because you've got all that experience.
Yeah.
And but to me, I always remember James when I was first joined. I'm like, yes, a young SAS guy. You just won't get on missions and do all the rest of it. I remember seeing some really old guys. I'm like, the berries are all tatty. They've got holes in them. The stable belts, which we have blue belts, have gone really light blue because they're that old. I'm like, who are these? Who are these granddads? And goes, oh, that's like AL detachments, like people who are just staying on, doing the training side. They won't go on operations and fight again, but they're there because they've got the experience and you can stay there, I think, till you're 65. But I remember thinking, oh, fuck no, there's no way I'll do that. You know, once I'm getting too old like that, I'll leave it, granddad, I'm out, because that's the way I thought. It's good. Other people, my mates do it, especially if they live in everything, because it's, you know, they're keeping their hand in there and everything. They're not going to go fighting, but they've still got that training role. They've still got that experience. But to me, I thought, nah, get out, just leave it, you know. So I did a couple more years extra, and I was a sergeant major, and he said, right, I thought to myself, right, do I carry on now and be one of these old guys, or I had the chance to get out and make some money? And so I thought, right, now I'll get out. And I said to my wife, just pretend I'm still in the SAS, where I was away 9-10 months a year, and it's a dangerous job, and then coming back. I said, I'm still going to be on a dangerous job. I still have to be away 9-10 months a year. However, this time we're making some money out of it. So that's what we did. And bless him, my wife, she had to just stay at home with, that's when I had my first, my baby. I mean, my wife I'm with now, we've been together, what was it, 25 years, something like that. You know, and I've got a 20-year-old, she's 19, 20, let's get this right. 19, no,
Like an editor now, bro, so you don't fuck it up.
And she's on a third year university, going to be a doctor, medical. Fucking hell. In the Downs house, there's never ever been a doctor. There's never been an author. So let alone, and my son's a chef and that. So I'm like, wow. But she had to bring 2 little kids up on her own. And there's me in a very dangerous, knowing that I could be gone at any time. But we just got a massive mortgage as well, you know, 300 grand mortgage back then. And like, shit, we got to pay this off. So we've got to, you know, keep on raking the money and just try and, because obviously my job as a father is to look after my family and wanting the best for them. So yeah, did some really dangerous jobs once I left the military.
So you were going to just go straight back into the close protection straight away? Was that the plan?
It wasn't, but then when my mate was on doing it, I thought, yeah, he got me on the job. It was a good money, so we went there. And then they did, you know, that was the really dangerous type of hostile environments, looking after the press. That was really dangerous. But I've done lots of different things, but not dangerous as well. As I said, I trained the UAE Special Forces for 14 years, so that was good. So you're training these young guys. You've got the best weapons there, so it was an enjoyable job. And I was living in Dubai. It's great. I was having the best of both lives. And since then, I've been looking after press again, but this time taking them in when there was disasters have gone on, you know, earthquakes and stuff like that. And also, I've been over Ukraine just delivering aid and stuff like that. But I'm keeping out of them dangerous areas now. I've got no intention of doing that. But I also looked after Beyonce as well. So I've done all the celeb stuff as well. But to tell you the truth, it's boring. I wouldn't like that. You're just a well-paid bag carrier, you know what I mean? No, I don't need to do any of that. Now I'm just doing a lot of chats. People want me to go around and giving talks. So I've been giving talks just on being resilient and basically just going through my life and what it means and just chatting away. And I started off mainly just veterans, and then I found I've helped a lot of veterans and military units have asked me to go around, but a lot of corporates and football teams and stuff like that have asked me to do chats, and then they all get something out of it. I'm thinking, wow, to me, that was the most. You've got to go outside your comfort zone, and to me, public speaking in front of people, that's completely not me. It's outside my comfort zone, believe you me. But
you could have fooled me, brother.
No, it is.
You could have fooled me.
You know, I always remember going back on selection. I had these 2 officers. I'm on the bunk. I didn't know anyone. I'm on the bottom bunk, and somebody's on the top bunk, and it was 2 officers. And I'm listening to these officers, and one of them come across and like, hello, Rupert, and where are you from? And what university did you go, Rupert? Oh yeah, remember Charles and James? I'm like, and they're coming out with big words. I'm like, what the fuck were they talking about? You know? And then also, I remember then looking around at people, and they all seem bigger than me, and as if they need to come through a door sideways. So I nearly thought to myself, one, I'm not going to be intelligent enough to pass the SAS course, but also I'll go and look at these man mountains, fucking specimens of men, like, you know, who I thought, fucking hell, he could carry an house on his back and walk all day. You know, I'm not going to be fit enough. So I thought to myself, I'm not going to be fit enough. I'm not going to be intelligent enough. What am I doing here? And that was like on the first day of the selection. But then I thought, no, fuck it. Nobody. I'm going to do it. I'm going. You know, it's all in the mind. I says, right, no, I'm going to beat these big bastards. I'm going to beat these intelligent gits. And at the end of it, there's only a handful of others left, and I'd done it. So yeah.
What makes a good soldier?
What makes a good soldier? 3 things: shoot, move, and communicate. Easy, simple, and that it doesn't matter what you are. Shoot. When I just say shoot, I don't just mean be able to shoot and hit the target. I mean, know the weapon system. Know what weapons systems to use, whether that's anti-tank weapons, rifles, or grenade. You know how to use it. Know what weapons are coming back at you. Know the different sounds of what you're up against, what fire's coming back at you, and so on. So that's all in the shoot. The move is be fit enough, but not only be fit enough, be able to move tactically on the battlefield at the night time and so on, navigation. So that's a shoot, that's a move, and the communication is you've got to be able to communicate with people, whether it's by radio, whether by hand signals, whether it's by flares and communications. So shoot, move, communicate, and you can put that in jobs, any job. So for instance, if you was a carpenter, the shoot is using your tools. You've got to be able to use them tools to do that job. And that's like a soldier's got to use the tools to shoot. The move is he's got to get from one project to the other. So he's got to know, okay, I've been given this bespoke area where I've got to build a wardrobe, right? He's got to get his measurements. He's got to know how to do that. And the communications, he's got to communicate with his client. Same as if you was a chef. You've got these shooters. You've got to be able to know the ingredients and how to use all your knives and chop things up and everything. The movement is you've got to be able to get the starter, then the main course and dessert all ready. You know, wait from A to B. And the communication, you've got to communicate with front of house desk, and you can put that in any sort of situation. But yeah, to be a good soldier, shoot, move, communicate.
What was your weapon of choice?
They had many different weapons, depending on what the job you're doing.
Also, just different ones, different
Those
missions?
different weapons, yeah, because if you were doing something like close quarter battle, if you were on the counter-terrorist team and you're training on planes, trains, underground, in buildings, you want a 9mm round or a low velocity round. So when you shoot somebody, say on a plane, you shoot a terrorist, you want just to be able to shoot that terrorist. You don't want an high velocity round where if you shoot that terrorist, then it'll carry on going and go through him and go through another dozen innocent people. So it depends what sort of situation you're going in. You know, if you're going on a normal job, you usually have an high velocity rifle, so you can shoot from far away, from a distance, because obviously distance is on. You want the distance on your side, ideally. And there's all different weapons, and depends what you're doing.
Do you miss it?
No, I don't. People can't believe you don't miss it. No, because I beat that cock. I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. Would I do it again in an heartbeat? If I could start my life again, would I recommend it to anybody? Yeah. And now that doesn't just mean, whatever it is, you want to aim for doing the best of that job. If you were football, every kid who starts football, they want to be in the Premiership team. They want to be in the Stoke City squad, don't they? They want to. You should aim to be the best of the best. So to me, if you're in the military, you want to go for the best of the best, or whatever it is. Don't just sit on your laurels, and that's the pursuit of excellence. So whatever you want to do in life, don't just get to there. You want to get up as far as you can, or keep on trying. It's better to try and fail than fail to try. So So I don't miss it. I've really enjoyed it. And I would do it again in an heartbeat. And and to me, one of the best parts of it is you're looking after your country. We've got a great country. I know we had a little whinge about it at the beginning, but we should celebrate our country, our culture, and being part of Great Britain. We're the best, by far.
Yeah, I agree. Do you when you look back on it all, would you change anything? Do you have any regrets?
So, would it change anything? No. I would change. The only things I would change is in the SAS, you're sort of you accustomed with death quite a lot. I remember not being there that long, and then I found myself on a coffin party. So I'm carrying the coffin. I didn't know the guy, but he was on the selection before me. He was a different group than me. It was just that I got there. The sergeant major goes, "Oh, you must be good at drill downs. You'd not long come from the normal army. You can go on the coffin party." So I'm burying this coffin. I mean, I'm part of this coffin party. But then I seem to be most years you if you can get back to the funeral, you get back to the funeral, or you see this happen, and you're just looking at the families. Them guys are doing the job what they love. But it's still, it's mainly looking at the families. And what I do regret, though, this is where I'm going back on the story, is as soon as somebody dies in the regiment, what we do, we have an auction for all this kit. So a pair of boots, we'll sell them, and everybody puts massive bids in, you know what I mean? Not because you need some boots, but just that everything goes towards the family, and all the money we raise, because all the lads have chipped in, will go towards the family. And but it's just sort of get rid of his stuff and sell it. You know, not his personal stuff. Obviously, that will go back to his family, but his army uniforms, etc. And the very first thing you do is go through the computer, make sure the fucking aren't having any affairs or anything like that. I think fucking for real, isn't it? All letters. Anyway, but we do that. So you get used to doing that. So when my dad died, my brother just couldn't handle it. He's a few years older than me. He's just like really, really upset. He only lives up the road from where my mum and dad were anyway. Me, I've dad to bits, but I thought, right, I had a week off. I just had to get down, bang, 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 bang. Right, this is what we do now. I says, Mom, all my dad's kit now, we'll just put it up in the shed. Yeah, had his watch always on there, because no, we just sort of sanitising the area. And it was only years later that Mum goes to me, that was the evil thing, what you did, you know. This was about 14 years later. And she goes, you just got rid of all your dad's stuff as if you don't think about him and just like move on. And I remember thinking, fucking hell, that is terrible, isn't it? But that's sort of what the regiment drummed in me, right? This has happened. The guy's done something. He's dead now. Sell his kit or whatever. Move on. You know what I mean? Carry on life. And I was trying to put this attitude to my mom for my dad. And I thought, how evil was that? Not evil. How stupid looking back on it. Why would I not want to keep his watch there or anything where he used to have his watch on the table as a reminder for my mom? Isn't it? So,
yeah, but
that's like having no. I've got loads of empathy, but
that's just programming, conditioning for the way how yous are taught how to deal with things.
Yeah.
So you've not gave it a second thought. You're just thinking it's the best because you don't want to dwell on it if you're in the sort of military, because there's no point, because it's not going to make a good soldier. It's just going to hold you back. So it's kind of, that's happened. Let's flip the chapter and move on. So you've just probably thought you were doing the right thing, not realising it's a grieving process for everybody's different how they grieve.
Yeah. And I do realise that, James, but if only regret I could have is I wish I could have not done it that way. And also I wish I spent more time with my dad, or, you know, because leave is a privilege. You don't ever get any time off in the SAS. And I see my mum and dad, but then it's like seeing mates and going on the piss and that. And my dad always just wanted to drink with us all the time. And I think to myself, I wish I spent more time with him, you know. I love it. Yeah, he's a great bloke.
Did you ever question your service when you start looking at what they've done to Iraq and there was no weapons of mass destruction? Does that play in your mind when you see, like, because Britain and America have done a lot of damage. We can't kind of hide away from the damage that's been done, and the politicians and the greed, because war is big business. But when I interviewed Peter, he says, listen, I'm there to do a mission. I'm there, I don't question it. I'm just there to do a job, and I do it to my best ability. Yeah. But everybody who I interview is different kind of answers. I tell you. Do you ever question it when you think, but what am I doing?
100% now, and that's because we were led to believe, we were told this as well. We were, you know, weapons of mass destruction and all the rest of it. And so you put your life on the line, and people, you know, people who've died and all the rest of it. However, I also then saw what we did as the civilian side, like when I was looking after the press, because I spent just over 4 years with CBS News living in an hotel, and a lot of the people who were with us were Iraqis, and one of the guys was a the fighter pilot for Saddam Hussein, but he couldn't get a job, and a lot of them were lawyers or everything. They've lost their jobs, so they were working for the press as fixers, going out finding information and bringing news stories and so on, because they could speak great English as well as, Arabic. And then I was living with these people all the time, say 9-10 months a year, and you get to know them and know their families. And at the first, they said, wow, it was great. We wanted Saddam go. It's great now. But then at the end of it, it's like, God almighty, we wish we had Saddam back, because it's just because at least then their kids could go to school. They give us food, and the markets were full and everything. But then it started all this sectarianism, because when Saddam Hussein was there, yeah, he was an evil guy, and his regime might have been evil. But as long as you had the picture of Saddam up on the wall, and you just did by what that dictator said, they knew life. You can carry it. It was one too bad. That's what they were saying. Even though some of them had family killed by him or his regime, there was no Sunni, Shia, Christians all got on together because they had to, because Saddam was in charge. But then once they got rid of him, the Americans, they had no sort of end game. And then it just went to sectarianism, and it's just like getting a wasp nest, a bee's nest, punching it open, watching what's gone on, and then fucking off and leaving it. And I saw the aftermath when I was there, as I say, with the news, and you see what it's done to people's lives, and then who generally, nice people, and unfortunately, I knew a lot of them, and they got killed. Because when I had my leave, I'd go back to my wife, back to UK. They would be in the hotel all the time doing jobs, but then the odd time they did go home, they'd go back in Baghdad somewhere, seeing their families, and they got found out working for the American press. That was it. There was a good friend of mine who got friends with. I knew him for a few years. He had a kid the same time as I had a kid, an Iraqi guy. When he went home, they caught him, tortured him to death and killed him. And he's just trying to earn some money, looking after us. So you saw the bad side of it. Yeah. And look, it's in it, because we get into some of these wars, and people, you think you're doing the right thing. The people on the ground, you don't question it because you're just doing your job. You think you're doing the right thing, and then afterwards, when you look back on places like Iraq and Afghanistan and there's other areas where we've been as well, there's never been an end game sort of thing.
Yeah, and what the media does worry me, because they do portray a narrative that they want to divide. But if you look at what's happened in Nigeria, with nearly 100,000 people killed and 19,000 churches been burnt down because of someone's faith, and we don't hear about that in the media. The media do portray a massive narrative because they want people to buy into. Same as soldiers, there's a lot of kids from vulnerable backgrounds. Could they be more easily to manipulate as well to follow these? We're doing it for our country. Because I interviewed J.T. Taylor, I think his name was. He was a sniper for the Navy, and the Twin Towers, 9/11.
Yeah.
That's their biggest sign-ups were for, we'll protect our country. And it's the best thing ever to be patriotic and fight and die for your country. But he himself never questioned it at that time. He says, I'm dying for my country because of what's happened in my country.
Yeah.
I can understand that. But then he started questioning it, started thinking, what the fuck was I there for? Because then a lot of rumours come out and conspiracies, and you start then questioning it. And it must be difficult to be a great soldier, to be the best of the best, because you will see a lot of missions that you can't talk about, knowing the damage that can be done in other countries where you're helping resolve, you're helping put blockers on that before anyone ever hears of it. Yeah. And there's a majority of things that go on that we'll never hear of. But it must be difficult for people who've gave everything their whole life to be the best soldier to then question things 20 years later, like it comes out with no weapons of mass destruction, and the corruption in the governments, and all the old gold and oil and poppy fields and everything that comes with it. You start questioning it. Are we just being used for for gain? It must be difficult for people who do live that life and if they've done anything for their country, but to then start questioning things, because it must be more difficult, especially if the shit soldiers have to deal with on a daily.
Yeah, no, I fully understand. And there's areas of the world like what's going on now. They're smaller, obviously not as big as not per capita as big, but it's still going on. Genocide's going on in different areas, smaller areas.
Congo.
I remember going over to Sudan one time when it was with the news in Baghdad still, but they also had a quick job over in Sudan when I was on leave, and I went, okay, I'll go over to there. It was the Janjaweed, and the atrocities there. These camps with like 20,000 refugees had to move because they were scared of getting killed by the Janjaweed. And this is Sudanese. It was like you got like the black African, and then you got like the black Arab side African, and it was like, God, it's craziness what's going on. And they were slaughtering lots and lots of people. And yet in the UK, there's hardly anything about it at the time. There was hardly any information going on. And I'm like, wow, I'm only learning this because I was with the news doing a bit of extra work or reporting it. And you're like, oh, I hardly knew anything about this. I've heard just a tiny bit about it, but this genocide, it was a massive genocide what's going on. And yeah, it's going on all around the world.
Do you ever have nightmares?
I've
Still?
Yeah. It's not me that suffers, it's my wife, because I'm always booting there and kicking there in my sleep. But I have a lot of bad dreams, and a lot of times I don't even remember them. It's just that my wife goes, you're kicking everything, you start off having shakes and everything. She says, I can tell when you're going, and then you just start kicking off. And other times I wake up knackered, and the odd time I can remember nightmares, but most nights I think, I've slept normal. So no, you didn't. You're just all over the place. So yeah.
Did you get help for it when you eventually quit?
No, I didn't.
Tablets or anything?
Nah.
Fair play.
Somebody once, I had some one time, but no. Yeah, I would say somebody pinched, like the other week, somebody pinched my antidepressants. I hope they're happy now. No, yeah, I've had, like, I went for a bit of counselling and a bit of stuff, like, but it's, I don't know. It's something to me, I've got, and I'm dealing with it. A lot of it's in the, in my sleep and that. But also, I just like to, I think what helps is just getting out there and doing some training, you know what I mean? Do something, surround yourself with positive people. Keep that positive mindset, keep training, keep yourself fit. And just push on for life. The best, I've got my dog now, Reggie, and I just love him. I've never been able to I know we're going off the subject. I've never had a dog before because my parents would never let me have one. Then in the military, I was always moving around. And then when I worked in the Dubai for 14 years, I could have had one then, but I thought it was cruel because 9-10 months a year, the dogs are stuck inside.
Yeah, the heat.
Yeah, it's too hot for them. So my wife said, right, when you come back to UK, after a couple of years, you can have a dog. So I've got this dog. I'm the Weimaraner and Reggie. God, I love them to bits. But, I just wake up in the morning and I'm like, wow, I can't wait to go out. But I don't know can you see that? Look at me.
Yeah.
See all the little scars? Yeah, it's his mouth. He keeps on. He's just like, oh my God.
So you've got your dog now.
Yeah,
you've come through all the war zones. You've survived SAS training. You've been in the military for over 20 years, and you've got more scars in your arm through a dog. For me, everybody knows my love for dogs. They're so important for them, man. I think it keeps you sane, kind of in a sane world. Like I think, like I love my kids, I love my family, but I miss my dogs the most when I'm away.
That's what my wife goes. She says, now, you've got a dog, you come in, and he comes straight up to you, and you where's Reggie, where's the dog? And you just want the dog. Why aren't you like that with us? I'm like, well, when I come through the door, you don't lick my face for 10 minutes, do you? You know what I mean? But no, I can understand. And for your mental health, for everything, isn't it? Because you could be having a bad day and you look at your dog. Dude, that's true love, isn't it? For you, like, right here waiting for you. Mm-hmm. And yeah,
it's just a loyalty. It is. They don't really want much from you. And whether you're homeless or sitting in a mansion, they'll sit right by your side. Yeah. And I think that shows what loyalty does. And I think people can feel loyalty. You feel your dog's loyalty. Your friends come and go and you think, nah, he's not loyal, because you know the way our dogs act to where a true friend should act. Like the loyalty and the trust where you've got each other's back and you'll do anything for each other. I think that's what's important in life, and I think we forget that sometimes. Your book, brother, Unbreakable, how hard was it to get out? Was it is that a struggle? Was a lot of red tape?
1.5 years. Yeah, there was the red tape, but not so much that. It was the stories as well. I'm so glad I did it, because I used to come back from there, and sometimes you go, your past, you just hide any bad things in the back of your memory, don't you? You just don't want to talk about it. But the ghostwriter sort of brought out all stuff what I've never thought about, what I don't want to talk about. And then suddenly coming back up on the train, I found myself nearly in tears thinking, wow, it's brought back so many memories, bad and good and stuff. But yeah, it was just like, it was like a counselling session as well in a way. It was so therapeutic afterwards. I'm like, wow, that's a weight off my shoulders. So I enjoyed it. And going back on the dog and the mates, I always say, you've got a lot of mates, you've got a lot of associates, but really, if you've got your friends, I mean a true friend, you can just phone anytime. You might not have seen him for years. They'll be there for you. You shouldn't have more than you should count them on one hand. Serious. And I think, who are my true friends? And most of them are the ex-SAS guys who I know are my true friends. I won't say the names now, but, and they know I'm one of theirs. You know what I mean? No matter what, I'll be there for them, to drop everything. And there's very, very few, isn't there, in life? If you got more than if you can count more than a
one or two, yeah. Listen, if you get more than two, you're doing well. But either that, or you're a fucking bad judgment of character.
Yeah, or you're a rich twat and you've got loads of people around you. They aren't friends, they're just acquaintances.
I think as you get older, you don't really need that many people anymore. Like, my life is so quiet now and I enjoy it. Obviously, you get your cars, you're dealt with it, you need to deal with, but just peace, man. Just a bit of peace, you know, because when I'm down here and I'm working, it's chaos as well. But I love the chaos. I was raised in chaos. That's where I thrive. That's where you'll thrive. That's where majority of men thrive, is when a life is full of chaos. But how are you feeling today?
Yeah, I'm feeling good, mate. I'm good.
You should be proud. And like I say, thank you for your service. For anybody that's watching, brother, that's maybe in a life of struggle right now, what advice would you have for them?
I'm just saying, get outside your comfort zone and do something, get some fresh air, try get some exercise and really try get some exercise and get, try surround yourself with positive people and speak to people if you are having problems. And what advice is, it will get better in time. This is just what I've even just said now, a minute ago. It's past. The future is, every day is going to be, it can be a struggle, but it will get better, it will. Because I've been there, as I said, with a lot of us have had really bad times, and the time will get you through it.
What would you say to the people, because you're very patriotic, you love your colours, you love your flag, you raise your flag, you're proud of it, you were willing to die for it, you killed for it. What do you say to the people who raise their flags and people are calling them racist?
God, behave, don't be so stupid, you know what I mean? Yeah, you might get the odd person there, or the very, you get a few races, but there's a few races everywhere and everything. Sodom, that's your flag, that's our flag. If you, as I keep on saying, if you're in this country, we should all love, that's the number one flag, is the Union flag. Then you've got your Scottish flags, you've got your other flags, but everybody should have one. They should be flying from every school as well, you know what I mean? This is our country, love it. Look at America and other countries, they love the flag. Why are we seem to be embarrassed about a flag, or because it's been over that subject? No, just fuck that off. It's our flag, love your flag. Fuck the bad people. That's the far left and the far right. It's our flag. Get behind it. This is our country. It's a great country, okay? And everybody who is in this country should be willing to die for it. And I love it to bits, and I do it again.
Fair play. What about the state of the UK? How do you feel it is at the moment? Do you feel a lot of unrest, or do you think the media can portray that?
Yeah, I think the media can portray that. But when you've seen some of the countries and places I've seen, and people are moaning, we've got fuck all moan about. Serious. If you can wake up in the morning, you're right. I swear, people just moan for the sake of it. So long as you've got a life, and if you've got a bit of shelter, I don't mean the people who are just living on the streets, but some of the dog shit places I've seen, and they just get on with it. They're getting on with life, and they're living in pure poverty. So people don't realise how lucky they are to live in a great country.
My brother, would you like to finish up on anything else?
No, if you want followers,
what's all your social media?
Yeah, it's mainly on Instagram. That's at Melvyn Downs, MELVYNDOWNES. So just like that.
And your book again, where can people buy it?
They can buy it. It can be on all the main platforms, but Amazon is the best way. I'd say you can just order it off Amazon, and yeah, I appreciate it.
Listen, thanks for coming on
Thanks
today.
so much,
Again,
James.
thank you for your service. I wish you nothing but the best for the future, brother. Keep up the great work and God bless.
Thanks for having me, mate.
God bless,
Cheers,
brother.
pal.
Thank you.
See you in a bit.